Good evening. It is Monday, April 27th, and this is a meeting of the Southborough Planning Board. The Planning Board is now in session. The first item on the agenda is a status update, 4042 Central Street.
Could I make one announcement before we start?
Sure.
So I just want everybody to realize they need to speak up in this room,
Okay.
and the panel specifically has to speak forward when we're saying things. When we look sideways, it's not getting picked up. So the recording clerk asked me to just say that.
Okay.
Okay.
You mean for the video?
Yeah, so that's a video.
Sorry,
Thanks.
where are the microphones? Are those then?
Yeah, in the ceiling.
Oh,
Yep.
so I can give you what our end of it.
Sure.
Okay. So first thing,
Introduce yourself so
okay, yes.
all
Sorry.
our fans know who you are.
Okay. I'm John Deli Priscoli. I'm a member of the Southborough Historical Board Director. So trying to facilitate the close out and the finishing up of the new center over there on Central Street. And assist any way I can get us to where we need to be. And I live at 84 Main Street here in Southborough. So we left with a laundry list of things to follow up with. First thing, Katrina, I wanted to tell you that I had Mark Elbag call you the following day.
He did. He called me about 2:30 p.m. and we
Okay.
spoke at length, and I
That
explained
was
to him.
immediately after the meeting we had last time, a couple of weeks ago. So I got right on that. He did explain to me that what the Southborough Planning Board is looking for is much more involved than he typically does. He's going to do it. It is going to take a little bit more time and more resources. I've instructed him and engaged him to finish it and I explained to him the reasoning is because, well, first of all, that's what you require, but more importantly is that it'll be less money on the other end on the review if everything is completed. So going to the review, I want to give you, I was going to run a check over to Katrina tomorrow as a deposit for the third party.
Peer review.
Yeah, I just didn't know what it was, because you were going to give a credit. I just didn't know the exact number. So it was 3,200 or something, or
I'll check
3,800.
tomorrow morning specifically,
If you
but
could
it's
just
somewhere
email
in
me.
there. It's like $800. We used to
Sure.
have, but
So,
$827.
I just want the board to know that we're
Yeah.
going to deliver that check the next day or so. Once I know the number, I just wasn't. I don't remember the number. So that would be there in escrow. Once Mark's the engineer submits the full as-built with all the details that Katrina was kind enough to Karina, I'm sorry, not
It's okay.
was kind enough to spend quite a bit of time with him on the phone to get all that done. So he's all working on that. It's just not done. It's a lot of work. Because there's a lot of things with the septic and everything else, so it's involved. But it is being done. And then will go to the peer reviewer. And then from there, assuming everything else is all set, we would then submit, correct me if I'm wrong, Karina, that we'd submit at that point the full application with the as-built to get on the agenda for some future meeting that you guys will accommodate us for possibly looking at an amendments or a review or whatever down the road. Also we talked about striping and handicap and laying out lot lines and for the across the way. We'd like to do something differently than the chains. I did stripe out the parking lot. And we did put signage up, and we actually provided 8 dedicated spaces and 4 flex spaces, they're called, I guess. I think I don't know if that was more than what was required. I think 8 was what was required in the original deal when I was owning the property. So we did that. I have pictures there. Working. Signs are on. And I'm not sure what your role is, but you're here, so I'm going to give
I'm
it.
just another member of the public.
Okay, thanks.
So did those just go up in the last half an hour?
No.
Because I was just over there. And those there.
No, they're there. No, that was photographs were taken. I don't know. See, today's Monday. Friday, I think. But there they are. I'm not, So So I've talked with Mark Robino about the handicap space. Even though it meets the, if you have 24 spaces or less, you need one space, but it needs to be a van accessible space. So consequently, he wants that massage just a little bit. So I said, fine, we'll do that. So I have to make a little, I just talked to him this after he called me and make a mention of that. We also have a special railing for the front being fabricated out of wrought iron, even though it's not necessarily in your domain, it's in his. But just to be completely transparent, we're working on that too. So we have that. We have the little modification for the van versus a traditional handicap. And you only need one with 24 spaces, according to him. And we want to do it right, get it and all that. So it has the 2% note that doesn't exceed the 2% pitch. And which we have. He agreed with the pitch and everything else. It's just that we have to make the space a little wider. So we're gonna have to reformulate that. So the big thing is in my opinion right now is to get the money over to Karina, get the as-built wrapped so we can get the application in. That's what I'd like to do. And finish up that one railing for Mark. Make that one modification on that slight modification on the handicap space. And try to get to the goal line here. That's where I'm at. I know it's not as far as you'd like to see it, but it's farther than what it was. So it's and then what we'd like to do, obviously, is we could be on some type of very short leash on the little small extensions as we get work our way through this, something like that or whatever. I just want to keep it on a positive and think, and as long as things are getting done, and, we'll get there. I can assure you that. Trying to keep everything on track.
Okay.
A little bit like hurting things,
Okay.
But
Mr. Murray. Well, thank you, and thanks for bringing in the photos and the update. I'm with you. I'd like to keep you guys on track. I think this is very positive. I do have a question. How wide? Do you know how wide the parking spots are with the stripes?
9.
9. Yeah, and so
I think your requirement is 8s. And you allow 8s, but
is
9s.
is the handicap one skinnier, or is it just look that way in the photo?
Well, you have the big space next to it to swing thing, but he wants it. That's going to
Okay.
change anyway, Dale,
Yeah.
because of the fact that it has to be a van. If it's a single, it can't. There's a difference dimension with a van versus a car one. So Mark wants that changed to a van one. So he told me, I said, okay, we'll do it. It wasn't clear in the regulations, but we're going to change it to a van. I mean, I'm just going to do whatever's required.
Yeah.
So it's just, I don't want to split hairs, but I want to get it perfect, as best I can.
And then I'm just curious about the ramp at the front door. It's the front door you were just talking about, right?
Yeah, well, it's not a ramp, it's a stairs.
It's
The ramp,
stairs.
the ramp is on the side.
Right.
So the handicapped access is actually on the side, which is where most people actually walk up the ramp, even if they're not handicapped.
Right. Sorry, that's the metal one, right? Are you
Yes.
thinking of replacing that?
No, that was 20,000. That's
Right.
That was but no, what we're talking about is the front door with those 3 steps. Even though technically it's not high enough to require a railing, Mark has requested a railing. Simply because it's not a residence, it's a public space,
The railing. I
and they'd
see.
like to see a railing there. It's got a little bit of a gray area. I'm not going to push it. He asked for it. I said, of course. So we've contracted with the, a railing person and, blacksmith and have them take care of it. So we're going to do that. And that was the only 2 things he asked about. But that was that. And I said, we're working on it, we'll take care of it, He had no issues with continuing on the vein as long as positive progress to get to him. I am sorry it's taken. We're going to get there.
Well, I appreciate that. And I can remember, like, I got caught in a snowstorm coming back from New York, and that was, I think, only a month ago, whenever that big storm was. So it's just to remind, that we know that there was
We had a lot
snow.
of
There was snow.
7th worst winter in record.
Yeah, we know there was
And it
snow.
wasn't like it was, like a lot of the winters lately.
Oh, yeah.
It was
February. February was the storm? Yeah.
But it, you know, the as-built is involved and the engineer's a small guy. He's only got him and one other guy and he does smaller projects and he's never done the as-built South Road. I mean, just like I'm doing an as-built, I've been working on it with the conservation on my place and the amount of stuff that's on that plan, you can't even read it. I mean, it's just, you know, it's so intense. So every town is a little different what they want on these as-built. Some are a little simpler. Some only want the changes. Some want, you know, what was approved versus what's there versus, you know, but he's doing. He went over in depth with Karina, and we're going to take care of it. We're going to make you happy.
Thank you.
Ms. Brush.
Thank you. Just a couple things. So is the intention to still apply for the modification?
Yes,
Okay.
but not until the as-built because there's no point. It has to be
Correct.
reviewed, so we
Okay.
can get the box checked on that. And I took, as I explained to everybody there at the society and the board here, to get the plan as complete as possible will save us money on the review time. So that's what I'm working towards.
Okay. So as far as the chains and the poles for parking,
With all those chains and everything, it's a little gimmicky, you know. I mean,
so I think the reason we did it was, again, while you have a sign there and it's appreciated, I don't think it's enough. You know, is it just one sign currently there?
yeah, we could put more signs.
So-
You know, we could, if you want to think about a sign at each spot, we could do that.
Well, it was, for me, it was about delineating. So, you know, as you know, from when you had purchased the building, you know, the deed restriction that's on there. And I think it's about making sure that that's clear and people understand. And so again, I think, you know, that's certainly still a discussion point
Okay.
in the interim. Let's just see,
Not the end
I
of the
get a
world
couple of
either way.
notes, so the
Yeah, sure.
modification, and with the modification, just so I'm clear, is there going to be a discussion of the lighting
Yes,
as well? That's
Yes.
gonna be part of the
all
modification.
the open issues,
All the open issues,
whatever they are.
okay.
Uh,
So I know we're not meeting again until the 11th. And I appreciate you coming and I appreciate, you know, you working with the board. And I think it's been a positive experience. What I would suggest is, because there's a lot of things kind of going on in the interim with getting the as-built and everything else done. I would be interested in extending the temporary occupancy permit till our next meeting on the 11th. So then we can really, again, we should have the as-built, we should have things where we can really sit down and talk the nitty-gritty and then, you know,
If
extend.
the
it
as-built,
further.
I mean, I don't know if I'll have that ready in 2 weeks.
Right.
I think I'll have it ready in 30 days. But not necessarily 2 weeks. I don't want to, maybe, but I don't want to. It's, you know, I mean, I could let Karina, you could put me on there, and if I have the as-built, I'll come in. It's fine. The more we can check off, the better.
Yeah. All right, let me come back to me, Mimi. Let you go,
Okay.
and then I'm gonna ponder this some more.
So thank you for doing something,
Very
because
much.
nothing has been done up until this point. The thing is that things keep changing. So this isn't where it isn't where the handicap parking was on the approved site plan. It's not where the handicap parking was on the approved like ramp plan that we got from when the ramp changed. So the ramp was in the back, the ramp's been moved to the front. It was 2 parking spaces for the approved site plan with an aisle, not 1. The chains, the post and the chains were agreed upon by the society because we require bumpers and they
Yeah.
didn't want to do those.
Maybe the cement,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The permanent bumpers to
so let me ask you,
identify each
so,
individual
right, so if
space.
you had the cement bumpers, would you prefer that over the chains?
So,
Honestly, I mean,
well, and then each parking space needs to be marked.
Yeah.
Each designated parking.
well, you can
space.
mark the bumper. If you need bumpers,
Well, that's so,
would you prefer that?
no,
How you doing?
I I prefer the signage at each space.
Okay,
And that's
similar to what we did there. something.
And that's what the deed requires. And our condition requires. And the spaces are 9.5 by 18, not 9. So if they're 9, they're not in compliance.
9.5.
From the laptop.
Let me verify that. I know they're 9, maybe 9.5 off the top of that. I didn't write it out. I had it done.
So they were on the original site plan, they were 9.5.
And you, in the original site plan, would have 2 handicaps.
With an aisle in between.
So one was a van accessible and one was regular?
Yeah.
Well, I do know where the handicap is, where it sits today, has the right pitch on the road, which is going to be impossible to change. And then you want to stay with the 2% or less.
Correct.
So that's there.
So was it
Mark
2%
verified
or less when they were facing the building?
Well, I don't
That's
know.
what we originally.
Yeah,
told.
but what's there now? I mean, what's on the ground today meets that requirement,
Okay.
the 2%. That's the most.
But then the other thing is that the handicap sign is up against the building.
Mark said that was okay. He was, he thought that was appropriate. Why he wanted in front of the parking space on a stick. But I mean, a metal.
Well, that's what it was on the site. So this isn't my personal preference. This is what was approved in the site plan.
Oh, I
This is what the society said that they were going to do.
Okay,
And like everything keeps changing.
so I understand. I'm just trying to, resolve it all. I mean, Mark said put it on the building, so that's what we did. But he probably didn't read the decision.
Well, that's because originally that's where the 2 spaces were. We were told the 2 spaces were facing the building.
Yeah, well, it's changed a little bit because of the new building it was a little bit of a flex, the way it was being. There was construction issues we had to address that changed some. But
Well, this was way after the building was done, when the ramp was put in.
well, yes, that's true.
And that's when the spaces moved. They used to be over on the west side of the building.
So what you're saying to me tonight is that these the 2 handicap spaces. And you don't want the sign on the board, or the board doesn't want the sign on the building, they want it on the stake. Or, a signpost.
Well, I do. I think it's confusing if the sign is here and the parking's here.
Right, but see, here's the building, here's the road. This is what was proposed when the ramp was back.
Yeah, which is now it's there.
This is also.
The idea is to have spaces as close to the ramp as possible. So.
But that's why there were 2 spaces in the sign.
I said,
And the ADA may require the sign to be in a certain spot in relation to this space, so.
Well, I know there's people in Southborough that want it just perfect and they deserve that, so I'm not.
Yeah, and the conditions said that they,
This is the most recent.
each space.
That's superfood.
So and it's 12 deeded spaces. And each space is designated with signage.
Well, I thought, 4 were flex swing spaces, 8 were dedicated. That's what's on the title. I'm almost positive of that.
So 8 along Central.
Yeah.
4 can be anywhere else
Well, those
on
are the
your
flex.
choice,
Those are the flex spaces.
but they need signage.
I think that the signage that was kind of agreed about was sort of a chain, and that was because there wouldn't be stripes. The idea was that each one would have a sign, but without any stripes, I don't know, it would be difficult to know where is the spot.
Well, yeah, that was
Right.
the post in the chain
Right.
to identify each individual parking space, because it was originally gravel and now it's
Right.
asphalt.
And well, as it heats and everything, it becomes still permeable, but it will support, it's a good system. It's recycled asphalt compacted.
I'm sure it's great. It's just not what's on the site.
No, I understand, but it works. Really is a good alternative. Okay,
I can email you a copy of that.
no, that's okay, I got it, I
You
understand.
have it?
But let me just ask, because that's gonna change, right? So your intention isn't to use the chain anymore, because the chain was really a solution because you didn't have asphalt.
Right.
Right, but you couldn't stripe it and maybe you could put the curb, but isn't that with the chain? I had suggested the chain, it was mainly because you.
Well, they didn't want to put in the bumpers.
Because of
which
the
are
bumpers. Okay. So what we're asking is to put the bumpers in with, and of course with the signing for each.
Well, I'm asking to comply with the site. We haven't had a modification yet. I'm not making any changes. And that was a request of the society. They didn't want to do the bumpers, and then you suggested the post and chains.
Yeah.
And that idea was loved. And, you know, there's been,
Okay.
we require concrete for the parking lot, and you didn't want to do that, so we said, okay, to gravel, and now it's asphalt grindings.
What do you mean pavement you want?
Yeah,
You mean asphalt, not concrete, paved asphalt.
Bituminous concrete is
Bituminous.
what the town requires. You know, so we've really tried hard to
Oh, yeah.
work with the society, and society
All right,
has
well, what
not
was there-
worked with us.
Well, I wouldn't say that, maybe, that's a little harsh.
Well, this is the first time anything has been done, other than the
We are, I
sign.
mean, I wouldn't be sitting here if we weren't trying to help get to the other side here. All right. So. What does it say? I mean, I don't want to take all your time up, but was there supposed to be a sign in each space? That was supposed to happen
For the
for the dedicated,
so the 8 along Central Street,
and then whatever,
or
other four.
wherever you want to put them.
Those were the ones that were supposed to have changed, just those?
No, all the parking spaces.
Oh, all the parking
Each parking space needs to be identified.
Well, there is only 24 parking spaces, so that's another problem.
That's what we had
No,
before.
you're showing 28.
he's looking at a copy of your planning board endorsed plans.
Oh, okay. So that's what was required, 28. How did we get down to 24? So that's another change.
I think that was changed because of the ramp situation. Potentially. Because of the access to the ramp has changed. I'm gonna have to review that. I can't, I don't know. Let me get into it. I'll come back in 2 weeks and have an answer for you.
Anyone else?
I don't want to mark
No,
this.
you can't mark that one.
You can't mark
My
that
copy.
one.
It's an official copy. She's gonna email me.
So I agree with Mimi that there have been a lot of deviations
Yeah, I
from
know.
the approved site plan, so I completely agree with you on that, Mimi. So I think it, for my mind, I think, there's a lot of things going on here. I personally, again, I would be in favor of extending the permit until the temporary occupancy permit until our next meeting. We'll have the full board here as well. And hopefully between them, we can get some of these questions answered,
Well, you've given me some things I have to.
Yeah.
Get on top of, so, yeah.
and we can just kind of go from there.
Yeah, sure.
I think in my mind, that's fair.
I mean,
It's-
nobody's ignoring you. I mean, I'm not, so let's get it.
And one other thing I would like is, or just, I appreciate the sign very much, but I think to have town council just look at the sign, I don't think that's a big deal. To have him review it and just make sure that it meets the requirements of the deed. So, because we referenced the deed in the
What do you mean, on the restricted?
the restriction, yeah, just on those, so just have him look at it again.
Yeah, so the sign is wrong.
Okay,
Oh, well,
so have them give us the verbiage.
just the curse,
It's just
just
may park along Central Street between 9 and 5.
Well, you realize we
Spaces are
only
not-
have to provide parking if we don't need it. That's what the thing says.
Okay, so no. So it says that people can park there until 5. So if someone wants to park there at 7 o'clock in the morning, they may. So 9 and 5 is wrong. And also it says that the society may use the lot for arts events. So if you have a wedding, that's not an art event. Or a farmer's market, that's not an art event. So those designated parking spaces stay during those non-art events. Yeah, so this sign is incorrect.
We could just have a look at it that would be good. So that would be my suggestion, we just extend the temporary permit until we're meeting again on the 11th. And, again, that's just my
Well,
suggestion.
so I'll tell you right now that that sign is wrong. It doesn't meet what's required.
Right, no, and that's fine. We'll have council look at it and come
Okay.
back on the 11th, but
All right.
the occupancy permit expires on the first,
First,
correct?
right, yeah.
So,
I mean, I haven't looked at the deed restriction in years.
yeah, so my suggestion would be to extend the temporary
It
occupancy
says the
permit
land
to
is
the 11th.
conveyed subject to a parking easement to the town of Southborough Municipal Corporation as reserved by the town and a deed dated October 22, 2019, recorded in the Worcester Registry of Deeds, book page, blah, blah. 8 designated parking spaces contiguous to Central Street, together with 4 additional spaces, location of which will be at the discretion of the grantee, with all such spaces designated by signage. Grantee will be allowed to utilize such designated spaces during hours commencing at 5 p.m. and also during arts events conducted by grantee on the park.
Yeah, I don't know if if the intent was arts events, specifically what's art and what isn't. The words arts events based on the manager of the property, but we can ask that.
So
We
it
can ask
says
the town
arts
council
event in the deed. I'm not an attorney, but
No, I mean,
I
I
can
think we should
read.
ask Jay and see what he thinks.
Okay.
On that
So, but it's
particular.
not or, so I think, so can you read that again? Because I
whole
read it
thing?
as just the commencing at 5 p.m. to me. says
Grantee
it
will
doesn't
be
need to
allowed-
be arts only.
no,
Right.
at 5 p.m.
So read it again.
Grantee will be allowed to utilize all designated spaces during evening hours commencing at 5.
Right.
And also during arts events conducted by grantee on the park. So if you have an
It's
art,
not.
if you have an
commencing
art
at-
event at noon,
Right,
you
okay.
can, the society can use all those parking
Got it.
spaces. But if it's not an art event, no. The other question I have is lighting. So when we agreed to the temporary, it didn't require a bond. Lighting was to be run by Marnie to make sure that it was in compliance. There's those little Christmas lights. I don't even know if they light up the parking lot at night. And that's a safety issue.
Right, it actually works fairly well, but I think we're gonna address all that, the permanent lighting solutions on the
With the modification.
our intent is to address them to your satisfaction.
Okay. So continuing to the 11th, what will we gain by that?
Well, I'm gonna find out on the parking space requirements, the 28, see if they're able to do that with the new location of the ramp. I honestly don't know. Sitting here tonight, I gotta address that. The physical layout. I gotta measure make sure it's 9.5 meaning versus the anything else. So, the width. And I have to address Mark Rubino's relayout of the van space. Now that it's calling for 2 spaces, maybe that we leave that space what it is and just add a van space. So I'm saying these are the things I can address between now and the next time, and then decide whether we're gonna do the chain thing or maybe come back to the board and just do the bumpers, get precast bumpers and listen. What would be the best, to try to save more,
So can there be signage up for the designated parking spaces in 2 weeks?
Yes,
Okay. And not 9 to 5?
well, we're gonna,
We'll
I
council.
wanna print the signs once and really print them, right? So let's get a clear understanding of what is it that deed really means, you know, so it's. Funny, these things they're always subject to gray matter, so I want to make sure that we can figure that
Well,
out.
commencing at 5 is a gray matter.
No, no,
Doesn't mean
but arts events. Okay, one could read that as well, events held by the arts people. Or is it just art itself, you know what I mean, so that's the gray matter there. I agree with you, after 5 o'clock is cut and dry.
Yeah.
So it's.
So Karina, do you have a copy of this digitally? So
I
for the
don't.
sign, can you?
If you
Yeah,
could email
sure.
that,
Yeah, that would be great, John. Then we could get this picture, at least a picture
Oh,
of
yeah, yeah.
the.
No, we'll get
Sign
it,
over to
I'll get you,
Jay.
I'll get you the sign, what we have on the sign. I'll have that in your hand tomorrow. I don't wanna
Okay.
waste time, we only got, there's 2 weeks go by like nothing, so it's. So I'll get that, and you're gonna get me the exact amount,
yes,
For the
and,
bond.
and I'll email you
Yeah,
a
for the,
copy.
Oh,
of
and
for the
the,
review.
so the bond amount, we'll have that before.
But, well, for the, no, not
The
bond,
peer
review.
Peer
The,
review.
the peer, not bond, I'm sorry.
Right, no,
peer
it's the
review.
escrow,
Yeah, the
Yeah,
retainer.
yeah,
for the-
yeah.
retainer.
Can I say one thing?
Oh, sure, go ahead.
So, when Mark Elbad, the engineer for Southern Historical Society, and I spoke on April 14th.
Mhm.
I'm just gonna recap what he and I discussed, which was a feasible way to provide submittals. So the first thing was that complete the as-built with associated engineer certifying letter.
Mhm.
Identifying any deviations from the approved plans in the letter, so he provides a complete as-built and a certifying letter that goes along with it that says in compliance except for these items. They identify.
Whatever deviates from this plan.
Yeah, that's the official, right, so there's a.
It's what deviates from what's in front of you.
Yeah, yeah. Then he was gonna create a second sheet of the as-built, which is AKA the existing conditions now, and superimpose a red line of that on top of it, so you could see the, okay?
Good.
Then for the modification, the as-built would be
Baseline.
the existing conditions now. And so then there would be another sheet for that as existing conditions, and whatever you're proposing for changes laid out on that existing conditions.
That's what I'm saying, it's not a little but it works.
So it's 3 sheets, basically the
Yeah.
as-built, and then
Yeah.
he has the approved plans already in AutoCAD,
Well, it's his name, right?
putting them on top. So, you know what I mean? So,
There's layers,
yeah, yeah. So the information, once he has his as-built survey, it should
he's
be
on it.
pretty straightforward. And so, that's the 3 main things. And,
I
you know, of
just
course,
want the board to
applicant-
know that when I left here, within 24 hours, the engineer was on the phone here,
he did, and I kept
Director.
them updated on
Yep.
that.
just so you know, so I mean,
Yep.
pushing the buttons.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, it was very helpful.
Good.
I think he thought so too.
Okay,
Okay,
so
so,
Make a motion to extend the date of the
Temporary.
temporary.
for another
Like it's
update,
about-
yeah.
for another update, and get some of these things addressed and done.
until 5:11.
5/11. Yep.
Pending update.
Should we
Or-
do 5/11? So that they can,
Or through 5.
For 5/11. Yes, thank you. Chris.
So you'll look at the number of parking spaces, see if we
Yes.
can get back to the required van space or the 2 spaces.
Yes,
Designated parking signs in the peer review checked.
yep,
So I'll make a motion to, so I'm extending the date for the temporary occupancy permit through May 11th. With said actions to take place by the date.
Second,
Okay. And this is a recommendation to the
Yes.
building commissioner.
Yes.
We don't.
we're working with
As-
him in concert too, just.
Yeah.
Working in a vacuum.
All right. Any further discussion, Latrell, yes?
Demir, yes.
Brashear, yes.
Okay, guys,
Thank you.
Thank
see you
you.
next time, here's your copy then. You're gonna email me that, and you're gonna let me know that I'm enough.
yeah.
Okay,
Hey, John, you're gonna send her the sign so we can put that to council tomorrow?
yes, I'm gonna do that.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna do that, I'll do, it. Okay.
Thank you. Have a good night.
It seems to me that, the question of deviations between what the plan was and what the current conditions are keep coming in dribs and drabs. So I think it's really important by next time to have a definitive list that everyone agrees on. So this thing can finally close. You know, it's not, it's not helpful when, you know, every meeting someone notices something new and gives you a new action item. So I think it's important, you know, that the engineer and the board and everyone just get to the point where we say, yeah, this is the list. If it doesn't make this list, it doesn't happen. That's my 2 cents.
I think we're working towards that.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, John.
Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a public hearing, DPW scenic road tree removal, April 2026. Hi, Chris.
Hello. Good evening.
You sound well. Can you hear us okay?
I can hear you, yes.
Hold on, I have to go.
The app right here.
I got you. Thanks.
So we have a list of 5 trees, 4 removals, 1 trimming. They've all been posted, and they were posted 7 days in advance. Yeah, I was wasting time.
That's
Well, you
okay.
got your stuff together.
You know, I found it. Okay. All right, so this is a consolidated public hearing, public hearing notice, scenic road stone wall or tree removal application. Southborough Tree Warden and the Southborough Planning Board, under the requirements of MGL Chapter 87, Section 3 and MGL Chapter 40, Section 15C, will conduct a consolidated public hearing on Monday, April 27th, 2026 at 6:35 PM at the Public Safety Building Training Room, Southborough Police-Fire Building, 32 Portable Road, and via Zoom, to discuss the DPW application for removal of trees, 1 14-inch diameter hickory at 34 Oregon Road, 1 36 diameter oak at 28 Lovers Lane, 1 36-inch diameter pine at 202 Woodland Road, 1 24-inch diameter maple at 21 Newton Road, and the trimming of 1 40-foot tall oak at 62 Mount Vickery Road. Those who wish to watch or participate remotely may do so by accessing the meeting link at www.southborough.ma.gov/674/virtual-meetings. Each tree is posted. A complete list of the proposed tree removal locations, species, size, and pictures can also be found at www.southboroughma.gov/266. Any person wishing to be heard should appear at the time and place designated. Objection to the proposed removals may be made in writing prior to or at the hearing. Christopher Lord, Tree Warden, naming the Charles Planning Board Chair. And ads for the public hearing were run on April 12th and April 20th as required with this hearing date. Public hearing opening tonight.
Good. And we did not receive any objections. Did you receive any objection, Chris?
As of today, no.
All right, Mr. Murray.
Hi, Chris. Thank you. I just wanted to, I agree with the list. I just want to ask you about the one on Lovers. I agree it's not in great shape, but I tell you, I walk down there a lot and I pass it, and I don't think it looks much worse than it used to, but I wish I had gotten a little bit more from Cliff on that one. I mean, the pictures I think do say it's pretty much rotting at the bottom, but is Cliff giving you, sorry, I don't know if you, I'd rather see you, but I don't want to turn around. Is Cliff giving you a little bit more information about some of these? That in particular tree, I think it said it's from some information from last November, but are you getting anything in writing from him that says, yeah, this tree can last a little while longer, or it needs to be taken down now, or some kind of notes? Like, he kind of used to do that for us and for you. I was just wondering if there's anything else on that tree, if he's doing that.
On these, because when we looked at that tree in particular, there was active insect activity. when we looked at it. So there wasn't really anything to note more than what I did note. So he just agreed and signed off on what I had said the issues were.
Okay.
So there was no more.
Okay, yeah, I'm not gonna object, that's just, it's unfortunate. By the way, I will, connect with you, I know that you're in the process of speaking with your peers and doing some work about replacement, and I think, it's probably, time that I just reconnect with you, so I'll catch up with you on that, but I don't object to your list, I think it's okay, from my perspective. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yep.
Ms. Brasher.
Good evening, Chris. Thanks for coming. I just had a couple questions. On the tree on Woodland Road, the
Mhm.
36-inch pine, I get that there's deficits on the bottom of the tree and kind of along the same lines as Deb. I'm kind of looking at, when I look at the full picture of the tree, it's really healthy towards the top and everything. So I get the rot and I understand pines, but this one I kind of pause a little bit on. Can you add anything on this tree, Chris, that,
Yeah, sure. So that tree in particular, anytime with pine trees, if you see visible cavity rot, normally with pine trees, you don't really see anything until it's too late. And most of the trees that have come down in the past couple of years that have taken down multiple telephone poles during the winter have been pine trees, just because once you get snow, ice in those top sections, if you got any kind of deficiency or voids in the bottom in the base, it's just a it's something really bad can happen. So a lot of times we don't have the advantage of actually seeing cavities, especially with pine trees, and in this case this one popped right out at us. So
okay,
that's why we want to do something with it sooner than later.
okay, fair enough. I look at the full picture and I go, oh,
Yeah. And the
and
only other thing I'd like to add too is because that's at the corner of Woodland and Corderville,
yeah,
that's an extremely busy area. And if something was to happen with that tree, it's gonna, it's coming towards the road. And that's just that's a very, very busy area. So that also, adds to the desire to get it taken down sooner rather than later.
okay, no,
'Cause-
I'm fine with that, Chris. Again, I look at the picture and and drive by it. It's kind
Yeah.
of hard to be supportive, but I get it. So I'm fine with that one. And I just
Yep.
had a question on the trimming. When I
Yep.
look at that tree, can you,
Mhm.
can we bring that picture up?
Sure.
Colin, of the tree at Mount Vickery Road. I look at this tree and I wonder how you're gonna trim it away from this house and what's actually gonna be left. So, if Colleen could bring thank you. I don't know if you can see that, Chris.
Yeah.
Can you kind of give me an idea of, I mean, are you looking to take the whole left side of the tree off, or just so I have an
No.
idea?
No. So it's actually it's the tree. It's the tree, not the tree that you're seeing right in the center of that picture. It's actually kind of behind it, the one that's posted.
Right, okay,
So that the tree that's behind it, the branches overhang. You could see it. Yeah,
okay, I
it's
see it, okay,
so those branches are over the house more. So it's just kind of taking some of that back, but not so much that the tree's going to be unbalanced.
okay,
So it's more of just getting the branches away that are like almost touching the roof. Um, because when it
Okay.
gets wet and stuff, those branches tend to get heavy. So it's really not taking that much out of it, to be honest, because we don't want to make the tree unbalanced. But there also is some dead wood up there over the road, but not looking to reduce the canopy by much.
okay, that's fine. That was the one I didn't drive by. It's the tree to the left me where the branches are hanging towards the house. Is that right, Chris? It's a smaller
Yeah,
tree?
it's almost in line. It's almost where it gets wooded right along the road. Yeah, kind of like right where like right about there. You can almost
It's a branch touching the house.
more up Mount Vickery Road more. It's kind of you were just there.
Oh.
Yeah, like right there. That one right there. You can see there's a stem sticking out over the road.
Got it. Yeah.
It's that one.
Okay.
The picture
So-
looks a little different now. There's not as much foliage currently, but it's that tree there that's posted. That's the one.
Okay, I misunderstood. I looked at the picture and said, oh, I don't need to go look at that one. I think I'm okay with this and
Yeah.
the one that I didn't go look at. So, but
Yeah.
thank you for explaining. So I am actually good with the list now, Chris. Thank you.
Okay.
And, I'm good with the list too. The pictures were fabulous.
Yes.
They really told the story. Just a question. Was the planning board notified when the arborist went out?
I did not, I mistakenly did not give notification to Karina that he was going out. I had given him the list last year. I've been working on this list since last year and kind of had him just do it when he could. He had some health issues last year. So moving forward, I talked to Karina about it, and that was a mistake on my part when he looked at these. So there was an advance notification given on these.
Okay. As long as we can keep with that per the policy. And the other, he used to give a little written report, like for each tree.
Yeah, he just looked at these and because the condition they were in, just agreed with what I had come up with. That kind of jumped right out.
Okay.
But moving forward, that's I don't think he's under the impression that he is to do a report or anything like that. But he's real easy to work with. So
Yeah, well, it wasn't anything long. It just had the list of trees, one, the address, and then he wrote, root rod or whatever. And then
Yeah.
two, the address and some, whatever.
yeah,
Just to-
I think these had more to do with the condition. He sort of just kind of like agreed that they were bad and didn't really. I think if they weren't as obvious of being issues, I think he probably would have written something up to help explain. But just because I think they were pretty straightforward, this small group.
Okay, perfect. And then I have one other question. So there's a tree across the street from the 28 Lovers tree. I don't know if it's 29. That still has a posting on it from 12/24. And it was like
Oh,
trimmed.
from National Grid. Yeah, that was from that National Grid list. Yeah, they I can find out if they've actually trimmed that tree. I believe they have, but I can double check.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
I have one more thing.
Okay.
I was gonna ask about that tree, Chris, and I think there's one somewhere in the flag lovers area that has a pink tag around the tree. Are you starting to prepare another list? Just had a
No,
couple-
I let the office, the DPW office know that if we get any calls, that I have no idea who that is. And National Grid doesn't ribbon trees like that, so I'm not quite sure who did that. So we haven't found out who it was. But it was a National Grid and because they have no plans on doing any more work currently in that area. So I don't know who that was.
Okay, yeah,
It's a mystery.
it's lovers, but it's not the one that Mimi's talking about. That's got the old posting.
Yeah.
It's a different one with a pink.
Oh, I
ribbon.
saw a couple of them. on
Yeah,
Lovers.
there's a bunch
Yeah.
of bigger ones. Yeah, I don't know if that's a resident who's gonna point out some stuff to me and decided to mark some stuff ahead of time. That happens sometimes.
Okay.
But I haven't heard, yeah, like I said, I informed the office that I talked to National Grid, so no one has nothing to do with the town directly or
Okay.
utilities.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank
We'll knock on the door, talk to the resident.
Do I have a motion?
I have a motion. Oh, public comment.
Oh, sorry.
Hi, Freddie Gillespie, Chair of the Open Space Preservation Commission. And Deb kind of touched on it, but I wanted to follow up, going way back years. And the most recent one I recall was the Nat Grid hearing for all the trees coming down 100 or more, a lot of them on Woodland Road. We asked about, they offered replacement trees. And we were told that they couldn't be done until there was a tree inventory.
Mhm.
And I don't know how many years ago that this tree inventory's been talked about before, way before that hearing as well. So can we ask what the status is? Because that was trees promised, and I don't know if there's trees coming for this or not, but what's the status of any replacement trees and the inventory of trees that will allow you to accept free trees from that grid?
Did you hear that, Chris?
I did. So we have multiple inventories that have been done of different sections of town that were Bill's beginning to put into the GIS, like a layer for trees. So that's still being worked on. And as far as the replacements, National Grid did give us 3 trees last year that we planted up at the transfer station along the back edge, just because it was very short notice and we didn't have any areas picked out yet for tree replanting that were viable. You know, we didn't want to just put trees back in places we had taken them out and then have the same issue down the road with power lines and such. So we are still working on the replanting program, but there is nothing since the last hearing as far as news with that. It's just something that trying to make time to work on. So
Is there any indication of how many trees Nat Grid was offering for the, I think it was like 120 trees that came down that year and 100 or something the year before? So how many trees are we looking to place in the town just from Nat Grid? And then how many trees should the town be looking to replace for the ones we've been taking down without any replacements?
well, at the time, I believe we didn't ask them for a specific number of trees. They just reached out and offered 3 trees. Um, and with the short notice, we have open space up behind the transfer station, so we planted them there. Um, as far as going back to them about more trees, I think once we establish where viable areas are for planting, which is what I've been trying to work on with Deb and the few other volunteers that were on that group. Um, once we get to that point, I'm sure if we approach National Grid with some viable locations, you know, we can have that discussion with them because they have offered trees all along the way.
I just want to mention that, you know, Chris's good intention, and the work that the DPW is doing to get us the tree layer on the, GIS, it's going to be phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I think once that is complete, we really will be able to see, and even, I hope even look to see like where trees have been removed and whether it's going to be feasible to put them back. I think in general, Southborough's losing our tree canopy, not just along public shade trees along scenic roads, but, you know, we have also a lot of homeowners that are taking down trees. And I think it's becoming pretty noticeable, like in neighborhoods and stuff, you can, you know, we're hearing noises and stuff because I think that we don't have protections for animals, for birds, for insects, and also shade along some of our trees, our streets where we used to have shade. You know, it's just not there anymore. So I think it's becoming, you know, something that we really have to focus on. Chris, I was wondering, I have some emails going way back from an arborist that we engaged with, Christina Bizanson, and she had, you know, started to map out and give me some information about sources of funding, you know, maybe even through like Tree City USA or other places, you know, where we could think about, you know, putting in like a grant or something. I think we came up with something even last year. Maybe Colleen started to work with something, but it was kind of like too close and we couldn't meet the deadline. But I wanted to meet with you. I even saw, Freddie, I believe a very creative CPC application for to save a historic tree. And it was either up in Andover or something like that. So there's like people that are doing, that's kind of interesting, I think. Yeah. Or to plant a historic heirloom or something like that in a historic center. So, I mean, I think we have to start getting creative and think about, and start working toward that. Like, I totally agree, but I think we're almost at the point where we're ready to do that.
Can I ask two more questions?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, in addition to what you're talking about, we're in a serious crisis with the losing all of our ash trees and all of our beech trees are they're gone. Are gone, you know, and that I don't know if that's part of the canopy, if their inventory is identifying which trees, because anywhere there's an ash, you can just put an X over it. We don't want to take them out because forestry is asking people to leave them unless they're in danger of falling down, because they could be the one that has the genetics to, you know, in the future, bring them back. Because when we had the chestnut blight, they cut them all down and there were none left that they could see that maybe this one would have been the one. So, but I'm saying, if that GIS data layer would identify where all the beech and where all the ash are, that would be important knowledge, because those trees, basically from all of the forestry workshops I've gone to and talked to the experts, they're not saving them, you know, and we have to be prepared for that. And if we have a lot of them, that's a huge, not just on roadsides, but throughout town forests, other places like that. So that's an additional area that we need to be looking, and could be, if those trees are going to be coming down, that could be a replanting place for street trees. I know they're not street trees, but if we have trees being offered and we don't have a place to plant them, maybe look a little bit more creatively, because my impression when Nat Grid was offering, they didn't give a number, but they weren't shying away from the fact that they were taking out 100, not that they were going to replace 100 trees, but it wasn't, and I know this isn't what Chris meant, but it wasn't 3 trees was going to take care of that, right?
Well, so Chris said he'd reach back out to them.
And I'm just bringing it up because it's been, before that, it was years, and I haven't heard any updates. So what committee is this, or group that's meeting to discuss this?
Informal. Yeah, just informal between myself or members of the planning board. Previously, Mr. Litt had some stivers when we were doing some other work. So it's not a formed committee.
So I would just suggest that the public is, and the Open Space Commission certainly is interested, that maybe some updates on where this stands, because, you know, it doesn't come to my attention until there's another tree hearing and more trees going down and you still don't have any replacement plans. And I'm not blaming anyone.
Yeah.
Please hear that, Chris and planning board. It's just people want to know. And when all the trees are gone from this ash and beech, it's going to be, I don't know how many years it will take, but it's happening now. And there's some areas in this Commonwealth that are hard hit. I don't know that we have that many ash and beech, but it would be probably good to know.
Chris, on that note, I have a question for you, because I remember Bill saying this sort of a two-pronged approach on getting the tree layers. The first is to, you know, sort of the pictures and location of the trees, and then getting an arborist or something who can then identify them from the video, and then going out to the site. Is that the piece that hasn't been done yet? And is there a cost on that?
I'm not really sure. I can't really answer that. I don't know. I just know over the past at least 6-7 years, we've been doing bits and pieces of sections of town to identify all the trees, and we had all the data. We just had nothing to do with the data. And then when Bill came in, because he knows GIS, he was able to take all the years of all the different companies we had do inventories, and that's what the initial layers are. So he's kind of going through that information, and then I think separately from the replanting plan that I was working on, he was working on the inventory side of it through DPW. So he would be better to answer that,
Okay.
where that's at.
Yeah. And I know you've been reaching out, and I think you're using Davy, right? Davy Tree Service.
Yeah. So
This is the initial, they have something called, I think I might have sent it to you, but maybe I sent it to Bill. It's something called Tree Keeper Canopy Urban Forestry Planning Tool. And I'm sure they're not the I think that's maybe getting to the next step is, okay, you've got this data. Now,
Yeah.
how are you gonna do with it? And I think that we're
Yeah.
almost at that point. where we
Yeah.
try-
So what I found was that it seemed like we had been talking about a replanting and how we were going to do it, but it's such a big thing to take on that what I did was I kind of left the bigger replanting for us to discuss as the committee of how we were going to do it through grants. So what I was working with Davey was I wanted them to give me the town 25 viable locations for trees today. That way, if we have a developer, someone who wants to donate a tree, we already have spots picked out that we know are viable. So that's sort of what I've been working on with Davey. And then, with the idea of the bigger replanting of all over the town, through grants and all that, because that may take another year plus just to have something in place, relatively soon where we can handle, 25 trees, not such a big thing to start, it's just something we can actually see through. So that's where I was at with that.
Did they give that to you yet, or
We're
are they?
still working on it. Just because we kind of though we started it over the winter, which normally is the time when, I can really focus on some of the tree stuff. This year, had other plans for that, but I wish I was further along with them, but we're not that far from picking up, and it's just, figuring out, meeting with them and just, to talk to them about, some of the ideas. They just kind of want to know like where we've taken trees down, and they want to get a good look at, some areas of the town. So that's in
Thank you.
process.
Yes, ma'am. I want to thank Chris. I've probably called him more than he likes.
You have to identify yourself.
Oh,
for our
Bonnie
fans.
Vance, 179 Mill Road.
Thank you.
I don't know what the priority list is that you consider, but I think you need to look at where there is town water and where there is not town water. On my street, from Mrs. Leeds' home to my home and all of Leeds Way, they're wells. And when the lines go down because of a tree, an aging tree, we lose domestic water, and some that are on medical devices have to move from their home if they do not have other alternatives. And I can speak for two individuals. But I think that should be a priority. If a tree has been identified as dead or dying, you should at least know that there's no town water on that street. And if a wire goes down, somebody's medical device also could be.
So I think a few years ago, so there've been several arborist reports on trees throughout the town. And a few years ago, we took care of all the dead trees on all of those lists. Well, maybe it did, that one didn't make. the
Yeah, there's
list.
several on Middle Road. Where I am.
Well, let Chris know.
Oh, he knows.
Yeah, there's
No,
definitely
he's
that
he's
that
handling.
area.
But I'm just saying, if the tree itself does not look dead, but the upper canopy maybe, that we don't see, those of us walking, they need to be taken care of, because domestic water, and you have a well, you're
Yeah. Understood.
really pushing the envelope for some people.
Mhm.
No, Chris has been great. That's not a criticism. I just didn't know if you had the list when you're talking about trees. Is it public water supply or is it private wells on that street? There should be at least a checkbox.
I don't think that, no, maybe we'll add that column.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Thank you.
Anything else? Oh, I had one more, a question, Chris, on the trimming, when is that gonna take place? Is
It's hard to say, because, sometimes it takes us 2 months to get a date for trimming, for a bucket crew, because I have to have enough work for the bucket crew to come out for the day.
Yeah.
So, what'll happen is if we get some emergency work, if we have a windstorm or something and they're here, a lot of times I'll just add that in as like the end of the day, or, because they're here. It's kind of opportunistic when the time presents itself. So,
So so our policy says trimming between 10-1 and 4-1, so we can miss nesting season. We're not cutting bird nests out of the trees. So that's why I asked if it can be
Oh.
pulled into.
Yeah, I should have said opportunistic during that time frame.
Perfect.
That's what I meant. That's what I meant.
Good answer, Chris.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else? Anyone else?
Tim Woodland Road. I'll just add, in terms of the medical devices, people who are reliant on power generally register with the utilities. So you should be able to get that list from them to inform your decision. Instead of waiting, instead of using the list only when the power is out, you could actually use it to keep the power from going out.
Right, yeah,
Done that.
I'll look into that. I'll talk to the National Grid tomorrow.
Thank you, Chris.
anyone on Zoom have any questions or comments? No hands, I don't see any hands. Okay, how about a motion?
Okay, so I'll make a motion to accept the.
Can I,
Oh, yeah.
first we have to
oh,
close the
sorry.
public hearing.
Oh, make a motion to close the public hearing for the DPW scenic road tree removal list of April 9th, 2026.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Demiria, yes.
Brasher, yes. All right, sorry, Dan.
And
Okay.
Chris has to vote.
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Chris's vote, we just closed the public hearing.
Yes.
Now we'll
Now
make
we
a
can
motion to vote for the
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
removals,
Yes.
said list, April 9th, 2026.
Second.
removals and.
And one
Sure.
trimming, so
Yeah.
correct,
As
as amended.
So I have a motion and a second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Demiria, yes.
Brasher, yes.
Yes. Tree warden.
Thanks so much, Chris.
I don't think he's going in.
No, I think there's something around.
So the next item on the agenda is a public hearing, 22 Turnpike Road modification to major site plan review. I think the proponent asked that this be continued without testimony,
Correct. Yes,
so till the 11th.
Okay, I'll make a motion.
let me just give you.
We need to change the decision date as well.
Oh, yeah.
June 6th.
June 6th.
It's in your packet. Thank you.
Can I make a motion with those to get combined? I have to make two motions.
No, it can be one with, you can, no, you should do two.
I should do two?
Vote to continue, extend the action deadline.
Yeah.
And then vote to continue to the next.
Oh, okay. Continuing it here.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to extend the action deadline for 22 Turnpike Road Golf Range modification major site plan approval to June 6th, 2026.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Demiria, yes.
Brasher, yes.
Okay, and I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing, 22 Turnpike Road Golf Range modification major site plan approval to our meeting on May 11th, 2026 at 7.
We have 6:45.
6:45. Okay, at 6:45 PM as amended.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Demiria, yes.
Brasher, yes.
The next item on the agenda is public hearing 154 Turnpike Road scenic tree removal.
Okay.
And cleaning up to usually
That's right.
illegal land.
That was good statement.
Okay, this is the legal, public hearing notice for scenic road stone wall or tree removal. The Southfield Tree Warden and the Southfield Planning Board, under the requirements of MGL Chapter 87, Section 3, and MGL Chapter 40, Section 15C, will conduct a consolidated public hearing on Monday, April 27th, 2026 at 7 p.m. at the Public Safety Building Training Room, Southfield Police Fire Building, 30 Portable Road, and via Zoom to discuss the unauthorized removal of a pigment hickory at 154 Turnpike Road at the corner of Turnpike Road and Breakneck Hill Road. Those who wish to watch or participate remotely may do so by accessing the meeting link at www.southborough.ma.gov/674/virtual-meeting. Each tree is posted. A complete list of proposed tree removal location, species, size, and pictures can also be found at www.southboroughma.gov/266. Any person wishing to be heard should appear at the time and place designated. Objection to the proposed removals may be made in writing prior to or at the hearing. Christopher Leroy, Tree Warden, and Neiman Chow Planning Board Chair. The public notices were run in the newspaper on Friday, April 17th and Monday, April 20th. And that brings us to tonight's public hearing opening.
Okay, very good. Mr. DePietri, did you want to speak to this?
No, I mean, I could go through the, the presentation, or I'm not sure how these work with these tree removal.
So, just so everyone knows, this tree has been taken down. I think the reason for this meeting is to discuss replacement, correct? Mr. Murray.
So I guess I notice a difference in our tree policy. Tree policy definitely has replacement. But we're a Tree City USA community, and that is typically inch for inch replacement. Some towns are, that are, I'd say, a little more progressive, maybe are even doing something more like a 2-to-1. But I guess I'd be curious to know what you're thinking in terms of replacement for the tree. So the tree's down, nothing you can do. But what are you thinking in terms of replacement? And I guess I'd like to hear from you on that.
I guess, wasn't there an issue with the type of tree and if it was healthy or not? I thought Chris was gonna talk about that, or not. Weren't there conflicting reports on that tree?
So I just want to say, I don't believe that tree. So just to go back, my recollection is that tree hadn't appeared on your site plan because it is public shade tree, so we established that. And I don't believe it showed up on any of our lists historically. Maybe correct me because you've got the book, in terms of it being diseased or anything like that.
Could you just please just
Oh,
say
yeah.
who you are for the
Yeah,
recording?
Justin DePietri with Capital Group Properties.
And Bob,
Yeah.
you're here too.
Capital Group Properties.
Thank you.
Did you want to let Chris address
Sure.
that? Okay.
Did you want to address that, Chris?
Sure. So the tree was definitely in decline and would have ended up on one of my lists for removal, but it just so happened to get taken down before that happened. So that's kind of where it stood.
So I have a question. So your letter says a 24-inch ash, but the arborist report says a 90-inch pig nut hickory. So are we even talking about the same tree?
No, definitely wasn't 90 inches.
Yeah, no.
And we just got the stuff back from the landscape architect, and he actually did a letter right up from the review of the bark on the tree, and he was saying it was an ash tree also.
Well, so is the landscape architect an arborist?
No, but I think he knows.
Well, so an
Wow.
arborist did this report and said it was
But
a.
it definitely wasn't a 90 inch.
Well,
Yeah,
I
it
don't
was
know.
not.
It was
90-inch circumference, maybe?
So
Possibly.
can you, well, that's the circumference, yeah.
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 Not the diameter.
So can you explain the discrepancy then, Chris?
Discrepancy with what? I didn't have anything to do with the 90-inch. That I don't know what I would be explaining.
So there was one of the arborist reports, the trees reports, the one on the inventory for Breakneck Hill. This tree showed up on it as a pig nut hickory.
If you
It had
pull up the picture, he might be able to
it was
tell
in,
better.
the arborist deemed it in good condition, and the recommendation was to maintain or monitor.
That was the town?
The town tree reports.
What year was that? I'm just curious.
2022.
Yeah.
Can we pull up the picture so you can see it? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the tree that got removed that we were also, I was looking at, was the ash tree. I don't know what the misinformation from the arborist in the town, in the inventory. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what that discrepancy is. I just know the tree that I used to see was the 24-inch ash that got removed. So I'm not sure, but that's the tree in question.
Yeah.
So we definitely agree it was a public shade tree. We've arrived at that.
Yeah.
Since I noticed your trees, you can see the concrete bound right there that shows that it was definitely. a
I guess
tree.
the main argument was that we took it down because it was in decay. It sounds like you guys take down decaying trees all the time and don't replace them, is what they're saying. So I guess if the tree was dying,
Gonna go for here.
yeah, we should have gone for a hearing, but why do we need to replace the trees if it was dead?
So it wasn't your tree. It was a town tree.
He just said it was in decay also, though.
It's in our town policy that if a resident takes down their tree, it has to be
It's owned by the residents of this town. And to remove it, it requires a hearing so that the residents can speak to it. So if you do something you're not supposed to do, there should be some mitigation. You know, if somebody took your car, you would want some mitigation for that.
It was damaged and broken, maybe not. It just sounds like from the last hearing, this tree's coming down and you guys don't put them back up either.
Hang on. That's not really fair. So you just heard that DPW has been working on a project for probably 3 years. And planning board's been keeping an inventory of hundreds of trees. And Ms. Gillespie just said that. And we know exactly which ones and how big and what was wrong. And we deliberate very carefully on each tree. And we listen to the residents, such as what we just heard about the importance of how homes near water and near wells. When a resident or business takes down a tree without following the process on a scenic road, you're responsible.
Well, on any road that's.
On any road, but the process wasn't followed.
No, we're not arguing that.
Right, so the process would have been, you have a public shade tree and it's removed, but you removed it, not the town. So then you're responsible to replace it.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's in our.
I mean, but the issue was last time is that you thought it was a pig nut or a different type of tree that was in good condition.
Well, that's what the.
So we have an arborist report that says it was in good condition.
It's difficult to verify that.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter
Yeah.
what the tree was. The bottom line is, it was a town-owned tree and it was taken down, whether by accident or not, whether it was healthy or not. So it wasn't up to you to take it down. It was up to the town to make a decision. So that's where we're at now. And I think it makes no sense to argue about this. Let's talk about how we're going to resolve this and move on. And whether we had another discussion about tree replacement or not, me personally, there's going to be some form of tree replacement to make up for this because it was a public shade tree owned by the citizens of the town of Southborough. So, I mean, let's not argue about whether the tree was healthy or not, because it doesn't matter. You didn't have the right to take it down. Let's talk about how we move forward. Let's be cooperative with each other and let's move forward on finding a mitigation plan that we can all live with.
Okay.
And that's just, I don't know what the board thinks, but that's kind of my thoughts. I know Chris had, had done a letter back in October looking for 4, 2.5 to 3 inch caliber trees. I'd like to see that increase to 6 or 8, and I could certainly be happy with that. And then the DPW will take care of planting them. Again, that's my 2 cents as one board member. I will toss it to Mimi.
I would just say 3-inch caliber, because that's
3
what
inch?
we're required. in
Okay.
the landscape. So what do you,
Well, can we just do what Chris recommended? How are you coming up with more than 4?
Well, because
how
that
is it
was Chris's
calculated?
recommendation, and I'm recommending more. Because I think, it is a tree on a scenic road. And again, I'm one member of the board.
Yeah.
I think 6 to 8 of a 3-inch tree, to me, seems fair for the tree coming down.
because it's a 24-inch.
Right.
And it's an inch. Our policy is an inch per inch placement, and you can't replace 24-inch.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and just to say, I mentioned some communities are doing, more like a 2-to-1 replacement, and that tends to be trees larger than a 24-inch tree. So if a, 48-inch diameter tree gets taken down, that's where you see these articles in the newspaper sometimes about the $10,000 tree or the $40,000 tree, because they can't be replaced in our lifetime. So I'm happy with whatever you recommended.
6 to 8.
I think that's fair. 6 to 8. I go with 8.
I think 6 is in the middle. 4, 8, 6.
How many times 3 equals 24? 6 inch for inch, please, is my recommendation.
that is
I get the
the
tree
policy.
ordinance size. But I think that's fair. I think this is somewhat, I'm sorry about this and we can't go back, but I do think that, we don't get this very often, actually. This is a bit egregious. We really don't even get, maybe occasionally a neighbor who really doesn't know, but, I think you should know because you're developers. You should know the laws and the bylaws, and this is not a new policy.
It was a safety concern. I'm just saying, we didn't willy-nilly just go cut the
I
tree
know.
down.
Well,
I know what you're saying.
I agree.
Chris,
Call Chris or do a hearing.
No, I know it.
So
Yeah.
Well, we know now, I know
Let's-
now,
let's
but
all just move forward.
What do you say, Chris? 6 or 8?
Honestly, I mean, I think 6 is very fair. Honestly, because of the the cost of trees, that's a decent size, a 2.5 or a 3-inch caliber tree that's a substantial tree. So 6, I mean, I think 6 that's more than fair.
The 3-inch.
I say 3-inch.
Yeah.
That's fine.
that's fine.
So 6. All right.
With 3-inch caliber.
You'll follow up with Chris on that.
Yeah, so he'll let us know what type of tree and the location where they go, or how does that work?
it's a donation in kind, isn't it?
Well, I think, first, any tree on our street tree guidelines.
Okay.
Yeah,
And,
You just
I
let
can
us
reach
know.
out. I can
Yeah,
reach out.
we'll touch base. with Chris.
Yep.
all right. So, do I have a motion? Oh, sorry. I keep forgetting. Yes,
Tell me where that tree is. What I'm
gone.
looking
It's not
at.
there.
It's gone.
I know the tree's gone, but what,
Oh.
am I looking up
That's-
breakneck? Or am I looking?
looking at
up-
Route 9.
Route 9,
The other way you were looking up right now.
and that's, like
Here's-
White's Corner. Oh,
Can you go
that's
back?
looking.
That's a Route 9
You know,
behind you.
Looking up from Route 9.
Did you go the other
Starbucks
way?
is on the left.
So
of the
there's
street.
Tommaso's, Ola's over
Starbucks is
here.
on the other side.
Yeah,
On the
Ola's
other
over
side of the
here,
building.
Tommaso's is here.
That's at the Tomaso's entrance.
Okay, I'm glad Chris is gonna decide where they're gonna go. I hope they're not gonna go in the same location.
Well, not necessarily
No.
there.
No, it's not
No.
gonna go there.
No,
I was just gonna object if that's where you're
Yeah.
gonna put it, because it's
it's not,
too difficult
yeah,
now.
it's not a viable location.
Thank
It's-
you.
Yep,
Okay, no, I'm in and out of there every day, twice. and
Yep.
that's when I was there.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I haven't looked at the list in a
You have to
while.
introduce yourself.
Fred Gillespie, Chair of the Open Space Preservation Commission. We helped work on the street tree list, and I haven't looked at it, and I don't want to forget. We should make sure there's no beech or ash. It was done before these diseases hit, maybe, so we'll double check that.
Chris knows too.
I'll look it up when I get home. I just don't want to forget, and you
Okay.
know,
Yeah.
we don't want that to still be on the list.
We're not planting either of those trees currently.
But
Thank you,
it's
Chris.
good to take them off. Thank you for. But it would be good to take them off.
Anybody online?
Anybody online have a question or comment? No. No hands. Okay,
Okay, I make a motion to close the public hearing on 154 Turnpike Road, Scenic Road tree removal.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Saying none, all in favor, Latrell, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Russia, yes.
Tree warden, yes.
Okay, and we'll take the vote for the planning board, make a motion to agree to the terms for scenic road tree removal at 154 Turnpike Road, as recommended and determined by the tree warden.
I would be specific.
Yeah,
and
6
say
trees.
6 trees, 3-inch caliber.
6 trees, 3-inch caliber
To
as
replace the tree.
to replace the tree move as amended.
And will be coordinated with the tree work.
Thank you.
Second, that amended motion.
Any further discussion? Saying none, all in favor, Latrell, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Russia, yes.
Tree warden, yes.
You. Thank you.
And then the next item is a discussion item with the tree warden on imminent hazards. And I had asked that this be on the agenda because I had some concerns that trees were deemed imminent hazard and then were removed for months. And the definition of imminent hazard is that a condition exists that presents substantial likelihood that death or serious illness, seriously bodily injury, or substantial endangerment to health, property, or environment is likely to occur before notice of a hearing to abate such a risk of harm can be completed. And it a hearing is like what, 2 weeks?
Yes, can be 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We do a Friday and a Monday. No,
So if something's an imminent hazard and a hearing can't be held, then how is it not removed for months? That's my question.
Well, I mean, we don't have a tree division, so we identify issues and we try to get it done as fast as possible, but we are subject to scheduling, we're at the mercy of these tree companies. So things that are identified, I'd like to take care of that day, but that's just not realistic. So
Then why do you have a
It's-
hearing?
because it's been deemed an imminent hazard.
But an imminent hazard means it has to come down before you can have a hearing.
Right. We're trying, it's not saying that, it's basically trying almost on a daily basis to get these done. It's just it's not knowing if it's going to be this day or the next day. It's not planning it out that far. Just sometimes that happens. I don't know what else to say to that.
So my concern that it appears that it's a workaround, so you don't have to hold hearings. And as I said, these are public trees, they're owned by the residents, and the residents should have the right to a hearing and know when these trees are coming.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I deem a tree an imminent hazard, I think going through the process of the hearing, I mean, you can see the pictures of these trees that we're taking down as designating them as imminent hazards. There is no, I don't see how the hearing process, these trees have to come down immediately. And immediately doesn't mean today, every single time. Like I said, we don't have the ability to do it that day, but basically I'm working on getting it done as soon as I can. So that's, yeah, I don't know what, I don't know, I'm not sure what you're looking for as far as that goes.
Anyone else have any comment on this?
Well, I have kind of a question and more of a question for you, Chris. So, we're fully outsourced in tree trimming and removal in Southborough, right?
Yep.
I mean, so if there, I'm just asking, some towns have, maybe, someone within the grounds crew or maybe somebody who wants to do some tree work. I don't know if you have to be licensed, but, to be able to, have the equipment, a bucket truck, to be able to do our own trimming. Is there any thinking that Southborough might sort of go there? I mean, I think about the number of trees that have been removed. I wonder what the total cost is because we know it's been a couple hundred trees. And,
Yeah.
if we had really an imminent hazard, it could be like, I think there was a big branch on Latasquama. That was, I think, a branch removal. It wasn't an actual full tree removal. And I just think in terms of like, is there a plan to be able to do some of our own trimming? Is that like something that could save the town money if we had the equipment, either if it was leased or purchased? I know that's expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, that's a pretty big thing to get into with insurance, more employees, the cost of employees, like I said, the equipment. We're in part of a consortium of towns for tree work, so it's really not that expensive to do the tree work for us. I think it's a huge number to start to look at doing that in-house. Yeah, I don't know. Bill, I think that's more of something for Bill to speak on, what his vision is. I just, sometimes we talked about, trimming but you get bucket truck, then you get insurance, you get inspections with a bucket truck, licenses. We're just trying to get potholes filled. We're just not there. That's like really far away, I think, for the DPW. So that's
No,
why
that's pretty honest.
when it comes to removals and anything to do with emergency, that's a challenge for us. It is, but as soon as we identify anything that I consider a hazard or an issue, I'm on the phone and they do their best to work with us. But a lot of these trees are, huge. It involves a crane shutting down the road, police details, there's a lot of coordination that goes into this. So, once it's identified, I'd like to say, yeah, we could take it down that day or the next day. But sometimes, it does take time, and sometimes maybe you could potentially have a hearing, but if it's identified as a hazard, because of issues, then I think that's why that's there. I don't know, yeah.
I would I think it's gotta be an either or, to be honest. I think if it's a hazard and you're planning on taking it down and it's imminent and it's gonna be soon, I think the idea is there's no time for a hearing. And so you're skipping the
Yeah.
public process because you just can't do it because there's a safety risk. But if it turns out, I think I'll ask you this, if it turns out that that the scheduling is gonna be a couple weeks, there would be time to post the hearing, just to hear
Yeah.
from the neighbors. I
I
guess that
mean,
would be maybe.
yeah. I mean, I wish it's not a workaround. I don't really like, that being thrown out there. I've sent pictures. It's completely transparent. I'm just thinking about the people on the roads, the residents. I'm not thinking about, oh, if it's going to be more than 2 weeks, then I need to. I'm just every day I'm trying to get somebody in here to take care of it. So, um, as of today, that's how I handle trees that are identified as hazards. So,
Thank you. I appreciate
Yep.
that.
So I'm gonna kind of piggyback on what maybe said a little bit, Chris, and kind of what Debbie said. I understand that what an imminent tree is, and I understand the hazard that the hazard that it could portray. But at the same time, if the policy is pretty clear that If the environment is, if there's substantial endangerment to the health, property, environment, it's likely to occur before a notice and a hearing. So for me, that's kind of the sticking point, is the policy is pretty clear that if you can't do a hearing and you have to take it down, and I understand that, you know, there are trees that you have to take down, Chris, I get that. But if it falls a month away or 2 months away from doing it, as I read the policy, we should be having a hearing. So, I think just read the policy and again, to me, it's pretty clear. If there's not time for a hearing, and I get sometimes, Chris, maybe you'll apply for a hearing and then somebody will call you and say, hey, I have some free guys today. We'll come and take the trees down. Then, you know, that's a different story, you know, and that hopefully that would happen sometime. If a tree is an imminent hazard, you would hope it'd be coming down sooner rather than later anyway. So just kind of my 2 cents on that. I think the public is served by having a hearing. I mean, we've had Bonnie and Freddie have been here tonight, you know, and commented on the trees. Not that anybody disagrees, but it's more about, and it's not saying you're not transparent, because I think the reports you've been giving us are phenomenal. And I think over time, Chris, it's grown into something really great. But I just, again, I think if there's an opportunity for the public to participate, that's always the best course. So that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's, in addition to transparency, if it's an imminent hazard, that means something bad is about to happen. If it's not removed for 2 months, that's a problem. Not only for the A, it should have a hearing, but B, if it's about to fall on someone and we wait 2 months before it comes down, that's
Yeah, I
not-
don't know about that 2 months. That keeps getting said. Normally it's not 2 months. That's happened in the past. Whereas, you know, trying to coordinate with National Grid about a hazard, because National Grid will do a lot of the heavy work for the town if we coordinate it together. But then there again, you know, the coordination, if it takes time, depending on where it is, a lot of that too, you know, happened, I think, a few years back with trees sort of being identified and then not getting taken down. That really isn't happening anymore. Just because of, you know, learning from that in the past. When we do see something, I'm trying as fast as possible to get it down. So my intent when I see something and declare it an imminent hazard is to get it down the next day, you know, as soon as I can. But sometimes, you know, it might take a week. You know, it's the 2 months. I'm not really, you know, that to me, I don't even remember that. That's been a long time, I think, that it was like those trees. So I'm just, you know, so I don't really know how to speak to it being several months. It hasn't been several months for a long time, I don't believe. So.
Right, my apologies, I misspoke. It was 1 month. So it was in February that there were trees on Woodbury, I think, and then they weren't taken down until March.
Oh, yeah, because when they took one of them down, when they went to take one of them down, I got them in within a couple days, and one of the trees snapped into another tree because it was so dead, and we had to close the road actually, and they couldn't take the other tree down. They had to come back because one of the trees was so dead it actually created a hazard while they were trying to take it down. So, you know, a lot of these scenarios, they're easily explainable why maybe it did take longer than, you know, so everyone is different. Every circumstance is different. Between weather, scheduling. So, but I hear what you're saying, but I just, you know, my intent is if I do declare something an imminent hazard, with my authority is I'm trying to take it down as soon as possible for the residents of Southborough.
All right, so just to get that out there, that the default should be a hearing. And if you've understood an imminent hazard, but if it's gonna be a month and they have to come back, then we can have a hearing. Yes.
Yeah, the way I view imminent hazard is I'm trying to take it down today.
Yeah, okay.
So,
Fine.
I don't envy you, Chris. It's Bonnie Fan of 179 Middle Road. I think you really need to ask town council if you want to eliminate that word imminent hazard.
It's Mass General Law.
I know, but you're asking for two things. You're asking for a hearing if possible, and then
Not
if
on
it's
an
not,
imminent.
no, but if it can't, if there's an opportunity there, is what I understood, to have a hearing, but if it comes down, it's down before the hearing, correct?
Yeah, it's
So,
not,
I
if
guess-
it wouldn't be referring to it as an imminent hazard anymore. It would be called something else because you'd be trying to have a hearing. The day that I deem it an imminent hazard, I'm not thinking about a hearing, I'm thinking about getting it down. So
Right.
that's what I follow under the law, when I do come across trees like that. So, that's where I'm coming from.
Understood. It just sounds like we're asking for two different things where I'd be concerned.
Yeah, I think wanting to have a hearing for imminent hazard trees, I just, that's kind of, I'm having trouble with that, but that's not for me for tonight.
Well, I think just to clarify, I don't think the planning board is saying that we should have a hearing for an imminent hazard, but if it can wait, in retrospect, it wasn't an imminent hazard. So I think then we're looking
By
at adjudicating the tree to decide
Yeah.
what.
Well,
I know that
that's
it's
kind of, yeah, that's kind of Monday morning quarterbacking though, after it's gone out past the hearing amount of time saying, well, you could have had a hearing. I'm not looking at it like that. I'm looking at it as the day or night that I determine an imminent hazard when I see the issue, I'm working on getting it down, not thinking about a hearing. And not everyone is going to be 2 weeks. It might be the next day I can get someone here. It all depends. So I think that's where I'm having the issue is I'm not in a hearing train of thought at that point. I'm in a more of a safety trying to get it down. And like I said, it takes how long it takes. I can't do anything about that, except make, phone calls every day and, try to get it done as fast as possible. But sometimes, yeah, it has taken months. It's also taken the same day. So it's hard to say. Each case is individual. So that's why it's hard to, just have a blanket about having, hearings for this stuff.
All right. Yes, Tim.
Tim, so a couple of things. As was mentioned, it is state law on imminent hazard, but a hazard isn't a certainty. And I think, the Monday morning quarterback observation is a perfectly valid one. When there's a hazard, you're saying there's a high probability that something will happen, but if it doesn't, it doesn't. The only thing I hear in this that we have influence over is the availability of resources to take it down. And so it seems to me then that it's worth looking at the compact or the contracts or whatever the arrangement is to say, gee, imminent hazards should have a defined response time, should have priority. I mean, there's a bunch of managerial contractual things that ought to be in place to ensure that when something is judged an imminent hazard, the resources are made available. And, I take Chris's point that sometimes things get complicated, but if it's a scheduling issue, schedules get managed based on priorities, based on, funding, or based on what the contracts say. So it sounds like there's a hole there that needs to be addressed rather than saying, well, since the hazard didn't materialize, there should have been a hearing. And I mean, we don't have a time machine. You can't go back and figure that one out, but you can do your best to make sure that resources are available on an expedited basis. And if that isn't in place, it should be.
Anything else? Well, I think when you say it's not a certainty, there's this one tree on Sears Road. I don't know if you remember that one, Chris, that it leaned so far over you couldn't drive a car underneath it. I think that was definitely fit the definition.
Yeah.
That was a certainty.
And I'll just add, I don't think anybody's trying to second guess Chris or armchair quarterback Chris. I think we're just trying to make sure that the policy and the law are followed, that's all. And Chris has done a great job of doing that. Nobody on this board is saying that he hasn't. Chris has worked so hard in getting us to a place where there's a great level of trust between all of us. So Chris, I commend you for that, as I think we all have, over the years. But again, it's just, if we don't raise the question, we're not doing our job.
Right,
So,
yeah, so, good, we're all on the same page. and that's
Yes.
Good. So I think that's that on that, unless anyone else has anything.
So I think, Chris, that's it for you. I think you
Sure.
can run. I think you could run really fast.
Sure, I'm not going anywhere.
Now,
you.
I don't think there's anything else for you right now, Chris. Thank you.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
The next item on the agenda is a public hearing, 154 Turnpike Road, modification to major site plan approval. So I think we got some stuff in this afternoon.
Yeah.
I haven't
I
even
figured
looked
we
at it.
need to,
So
we had
just,
to keep revising the landscape plan and we finally got it to us this morning. So I figured we weren't gonna be able to get to it today.
okay. So,
So we would need to revise both the decision date and.
Yeah.
so for the next meeting on
the
May
11th.
11th,
Perfect.
What are we gonna go over the lights or no? Okay.
oh, we already have this.
Yes, we already have a signed extension that
To
just
June
needs to be
5th.
granted.
Okay,
Continue to May 11th at 7 PM. With action extended, planning board action deadline to June 5th.
Okay, so we don't take a vote on it then, because it's already.
No, no,
Yeah.
they're requesting it.
That's the request.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to say anything further? Okay, so we'll just, let's see,
first I without testimony till May 11th.
okay, so I'll make a motion to continue, 154 Turnpike Road, the modification major site plan approval. Continue to May 11th at 7 PM.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Brasher, yes.
And I make a motion
And that's
to,
without testimony.
without testimony. Amended, boy, and the second would be to extend the decision date. For 154 Turnpike Road modification to major site plan approval. To June 6th,
June 5.
June 5.
We did the other one, the 6th.
Oh, I'm
Does it matter?
that's just a administration.
Yeah, that's. Okay, because it's not a meeting. So do it again.
So June 5th as amended.
Second.
Motion and a second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Brasher, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No more trees.
Done with trees, Bonnie.
Just for tonight, though.
Native plants.
What?
Native plants.
I know.
The next item on the agenda is a discussion item.
Okay,
Open
fine.
space preservation commission, native plant
Yeah.
policy and invasive species.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good
Good
night.
night.
Hi there,
Hello.
am I on?
Yeah, do you have your slides? No?
So I'm Freddie Gillespie, Chair of the Open Space Preservation Commission. And when I get to it, I'm going to ask Colleen to put the policy up, but we don't need that right now necessarily. I just wanted to go over, be a little bit dry, but go over some of the comments in our communication with the planning board for the record and for the public, if anyone's listening or in the future. So the Open Space Commission, it's our belief that the planning board has been requiring native straight species plants for all landscaping required in permits that have been issued since 2017. And this has been done based on multiple references and requirements throughout the zoning code, plus the fact that the planning board, through their chair, Mimi Latrell, has consistently stating zoning provisions cannot be viewed in isolation. Any statute should be interpreted to be consistent and harmonious. It is therefore clear that requiring native planting for the benefit of the environment to support wildlife, conserve water, and mitigate stormwater is consistent with zoning provisions. Additionally, native planting requirements are harmonious, I'm not gonna be able to say that.
Harmonious.
Harmonious, once you say it wrong, you can't go back.
No.
Are harmonious and consistent with the goals of the master plan, the hazard mitigation plan, the street tree guidelines, and the downtown district guidelines. So also in the master plan, it was called out for the Open Space Preservation Commission was charged to expand the use of native plants and prioritize awareness and installation of pollination systems across the community. The action item to develop a policy and associated guidelines conditions outlining the recommended native planting schemes, collaborate with the Planning Board and Conservation Commission to have these formally adopted and incorporated into review of the site plans and permit applications. And I'm calling this out because the Planning Board has been doing this. And now this is a chance to formalize it and make it official. And so we looked at it a little more closely. The Open Space Preservation Commission has reviewed and talked about this and came up with our recommendations. The Planning Board member, Marnie Houlihan, had reviewed and made some suggestions, and we're very appreciative of her efforts, particularly with the invasive plants. And then we also are very appreciative of the work that this planning board has done since 2017, which I don't know if you know it, but you are spoken very highly of in the native plant community of the Commonwealth in many different organizations and groups as something to emulate and to work towards what you have accomplished. So we're very thankful for that. And then just before I go through the policy, I want to acknowledge that we had sent in a PDF document with 41 slides that's there for your reference in the future. We're not going through it tonight, but if for you or for anyone else interested in looking at it, which describes, I want to give a quick rundown without the pictures, but it's like why native plants.
So you don't want to just show the couple of the beginnings?
I don't have, well, do you want
Put them
to?
up.
Yeah.
I don't have it. My computer crashed, so I
Oh,
couldn't
put
send
them
it.
all coming.
We have,
Okay, so I'll just run through this
They
quickly.
were pretty slides. Yeah.
It's, and the reason for this is why native plants? It's not just because it's a fad and we want to say, oh, you have to use native plants. There's deep, significant reasons why we need native plants in our landscape. And I'll be happy to go through a couple of these, and I'll just tell you when you open them up, how to slide through it. So, and this is the other point that gets into it a little bit in the recommendations. It's not just about having native plants, but it's about ecological landscaping. Just put a plant in, it doesn't do it's so much better than not, but it doesn't take care of the whole situation. So if you go to the next slide, you have to scroll. Keep scrolling. So one point, go back. One point we wanted to make was that biodiversity is critically important, and the role plants play in that is critically important for, they take the energy from the sun and they transport it into the whole animal system through insects mostly. And they have co-evolved, plants and insects, for 480 million years. So if you put something in different that's not native, that didn't co-evolve with our native insects, they're not going to use each other. It's not going to work. And as it says, coevolution has significantly shaped ecosystems in New England. So if you scroll next, keep scrolling. The insect apocalypse is here. That's been in all the newspapers, New York Times. We're losing species overall, 1 million species going extinct right now. And the thing is, these aren't going extinct just in the rainforest or in foreign countries. It's happening right here, right now, in your own backyard. And putting in native plants can help make a difference and scroll. You can keep scrolling. That's just showing how they co-evolve. Keep scrolling. Keep scrolling. So go back to that one's kind of cute. So birds feed their babies caterpillars. And a little chickadee, this is a bluebird, but a chickadee takes 6,000 to 9,000 caterpillars to fledge a nest. And then the parents keep feeding the babies after they've left the nest for a period of time, and up to 12,000 caterpillars. And where do caterpillars come from? Butterflies lay eggs on plants that become caterpillars. They co-evolved with the plants. They lay their eggs on native plants. No native plants, no caterpillars, no bird food. And now I'll get to some statistics. You can scroll through the slides. Keep going. So you can keep going. I'll just read this. Find a pretty picture.
A pretty picture.
Or you can go back to the birds. But we've lost, a report came out last year, we've lost 22% of native butterflies in the Northeast in the past 20 years. These aren't rare, some are rare. These aren't all rare butterflies. They are common butterflies disappearing. It's not like they're going all extinct, but they're losing significant mass. 30% of birds, this was a study a while ago, but 30% of the birds, common backyard birds in the last 50 years are gone. That's more than 1 in 4 birds have disappeared. And if you think of the connection, birds feed their babies caterpillars, the butterflies are declining, the butterflies want native plants to lay their eggs on. They can't find the native plants, they don't lay their eggs, there's no food for the baby birds. This is a snowballing effect all the way up through the whole food web and animal up to, and who's at the top is us, but that's going to collapse at some point. So
the previous slide on the caterpillar was interesting. That they've declined 51%, but 125 were found. That one.
Oh, this one here. Well, I'm going to get to that in a second. All right.
Okay.
So in Massachusetts, we have 400 native species of bees, non-bumblebees. Those 50 of them are at risk. At risk means declining significantly, at risk of being extirpated from the state, which means locally extinct. Bumblebees, the situation is we historically had 10 species, 2 are extirpated. Of those 2, locally extinct. 1 is on the National Endangered Species list, and the other one is being considered. That is not insignificant. It's not a good thing when they leave Massachusetts, right? Of the 10 minus 2 is 8. Of the 8 left, 3 are on their way out. And of the 3 that are on their way out, 2 are in this area. 1 is at higher elevations. Of those 2, 1 is called Bombus fervidus, and the other one is called Bombus vagans. And that is why in the list, you will see that Dr. Shigir's plants are listed. In the policy, you'll see that we recommend Dr. Shigir's plants because they are based on helping the most at-risk species. Not all pollinators are declining. Numbers are increasing over historic numbers. But his point of view is if we're losing species, we should be planting the plants that help those species. You feed the ones that are hungry. Interestingly, when he did 5 years of research before he came up with a list, Breakneck Hill was his first research site in the Commonwealth, and he has been continuing to work there with us since 2015. After 5 years, when we put the plant list in, we've had significant, amazing results. But one of the things to first say is when we compared the plant list that these at-risk disappearing bumblebees use, and bumblebees are one of the best pollinators. You think of them fat and fuzzy, they get a lot of pollen on their fur, and they're really good pollinators. Anyhow, many of the plants that those bumblebees that are disappearing use are on the state endangered species list, and it makes sense. You lose the pollinator, you lose the plant, you lose the plant, you lose the pollinator. And one of the plants I will say is the lupin, right? Beautiful plant. So that's going to be on the state endangered species list pretty soon. That plant, the bumblebees that pollinated are declining, but it is also the only host plant for the Karner blue butterfly, an endangered, soon heading towards extinction butterfly, beautiful butterfly. So you see, we can see the connection. If you lose one species, it doesn't just go away by itself, it impacts others. So I wanted to just bring up, go back to the, can you go back to the monarch butterfly? Not sorry, I said monarch, this one. This is the Baltimore checker spot. In that report of those butterflies that have declined, this one has declined by 51%. 51.5%, I think so number. Last summer at Breakneck Hill, members of the Massachusetts Butterfly Club were flocking there. We had one expert saw over 125 in 1 hour. That was last year. In 20 years of looking for this butterfly, I've seen maybe 12. This is because we started planting the host plants from Dr. Shapir's plant list. We believe, I don't have evidence that's exactly why, but kind of makes sense. We do have the data for the bumblebees. Bombus vagans, since we started planting in 2020, the plants on his list has increased, has quadrupled in numbers, and Bombus fervidus has gone from a low of 0 up to 28, which doesn't sound like a lot, 28, but when you're at 0, it's significant. So that is what I wanted to talk about there. And these other pictures here are just talking about when you, it's a landscaping thing, we'll have a discussion, but it's called soft landings. Many species, have you ever walked under a tree and there's a little inchwork coming down? They're parachuting down to the ground. And if you had that other picture with the like caterpillars, it was a little bit further up. Yeah, that one. Many of them look like dead leaves. They fall to the ground, or they look like this. Some of them, they pupate, they get onto the ground. They have to work their way into the soil. And did you know fireflies? 2 years in soil litter, in the soil. 70% of the common, not the common, 70% of our bees, non-bumblebees, live in the soil. So what happens if you don't have a place for them to land when they fall out of the trees? And if you go on, you can see some pictures of what is recommended. We're not going to do that in this policy. These are the type of butterflies and moths that fall out of trees. They are gorgeous, and hopefully the Open Space Commission is going to be having a walk to look at some of these this summer. You go to the next one. Soft landings. This talks about what they are. It's a different kind of landscaping. Go next slide. You'll see that oak tree. Now that's grass, which isn't so bad, right? And there's worse things than that. But when it's solid, hard grass, it's very different than where you see the plants around the tree, which is what a soft landing is. Then, and if we have a landscape plan for the town, which requires mulch, which is not a soft landing, it's not as bad as other, cement and things like that. But, and I think that's it. You can just scroll through. Why should you create one? This is something I want to point this out. It's a new trend in landscaping, just like you get granite countertops instead of, that was a new fad. This is the new thing you're going to be seeing, and maybe people will be coming in front of this board asking for this. Stone mulch. It's not a good idea. Definitely not soft landing. There's no habitat. No one's getting through. It also heats up the soil. So anything that is living in the soil gets cooked. It increases temperatures, certainly. So it's not a good idea. And we're also seeing it around town in other uses, which isn't a great landscaping. You can just keep scrolling through and go, I don't think we need it. So that's that part of it. And then you can see the, I had that one last picture. Please go there. This here shows it in a more urban area than, like there's a sidewalk and there's a parking lot, and this park was able to use soft landings in a more built out area. And then the other thing we talked about is the night lighting. we need to start finding a way to make more areas in town in compliance, because you did a great job in getting a bylaw, but there's many places in town. And a few weeks ago or a while ago, some Girl Scouts approached the Open Space Commission to work with them. And they were at the transfer station this weekend with a display, which, if you have a heat map, which shows where the lights are. I guess it's not a heat, it's a light map maybe. Our section of Route 9 is very bright, and it doesn't have to be that bright. And then this rest of this slideshow is just about the invasives. This is knotweed. 1/4 of an inch of knotweed will spread and start a new plant. And actually, I picked some I was going to show you it, but if you drive around town, that's knotweed coming through brick walls, stone walls. It will come through pavement. It will come through foundations. In England, you have to be certified knotweed free to sell your house or go through some expensive hoops.
And that weed is like the bamboo. Yeah. there's
So-
that by my house right now.
We had recommended, oh, this is Breakneck Hill. That's just showing you,
I remember those days.
the worst bittersweet infestation in Metro West. And we have turned that into a biodiversity hotspot. Diligent work by the stewardship committee.
For
Under
a
the
long time.
conservation areas. That was in 2003. That's Stick Up John in the red down there, I believe. And he was a conservation commissioner, many of us remember. And we turned 25 acres of invasive monoculture into this beautiful, where we have a pair of kestrels there this week. We have, it's not just the pollinators. We have lots of beautiful birds. Anyhow, so. But at that point there was, even after we turned that bittersweet infestation into, go to the next picture. It wasn't until we started putting in native, because that looks very nice and much better, and it was better, but it's all pretty much non-native plants because it's old agricultural fields. So until we started putting in the native plants and using Dr. Giguère's list is when the biodiversity on that property skyrocketed. And how do we know? Because, well, Dr. Giguère, it's still his research site. He monitors it weekly still. We've had grid searches. We've had grad students working there. We have the Mass Butterfly Club people coming, and we have birders coming all the time that get in touch with us and let us know what's happening. And we're always looking out as well. So that's that. Next, you have the policy. I just thank you for letting me go over that, because it's important to know that we're not just saying, oh, native plants. It's not the fad of the day. We are really dependent on this. And the research will tell you that biodiversity, the declining biodiversity and species extinction of wildlife, animals, and plants is as significant as climate change. And that it is related. Certainly, we can't fix the climate change in our backyards, but we can fix the native plant insect connection, habitat for birds. However, if climate change as an issue was solved tomorrow, the species crisis with native plants and insects is still just as serious, because we have lost all the habitat and we need to start focusing on building it back up. And your bylaw, not your bylaw, this policy will help with that, but you have already been doing it for almost a decade. That is not insignificant. And, from a few trees and plants here to the landscape at St. Mark's New Dorm to the over an acre meadow at Ken's Foods, there have been consistent improvements. And as one group in Commonwealth says, Grow Native Massachusetts, every plant matters, every garden matters, every landscape, and every permit you issue requiring native plants makes a difference. So thank you. Thank you. Do you want to put the policy up? Do you want to go over it?
Yeah.
And there's a few things I know. Need some discussion. So the. First is. The policy applies to all site plan submissions. Well, the Open Space Commission and the master plan didn't talk about just site plan. I'm not sure how it got narrowed down, but we think any permits issued by the planning board. Special permits. Lid. I don't know however many permits you have besides site. Major residential is one. Any permit should comply with the native plant laws. That's something for you to consider. In here, it says site plan, but that was never the intent, and I don't believe that that is the only permit you've been requiring.
I think, we've required whatever there's landscaping. But I think the majority of that is site plan.
Where's this?
Landscaping.
Under applicability. Applies to all site.
Oh, and this is, yes, this is with our zoning code, so if, we don't tell. We have never recommended, or the planning board has never enforced, like if somebody has a project and they have say a large lawn, they don't have to go in and put in native plants. But if they have, I think it's if soil is disturbed and they have to do landscaping, and then if a certain trigger is hit and they need to add trees or shrubs, parking lots, those sorts of areas, then that's when this is triggered. It's not like just free for all telling people they have to do this. It's where landscaping is required.
Right, which is mostly on site.
Doesn't lid come into play without a site plan?
No, I've ever done like, it's like,
You have to have a word. I'm sorry, an acre, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, so.
you have to have major site plan.
Well, you're the
But there's an
planning board.
exempt-
I don't know. I'm just saying. we'd
There's an
like to look at
exemption
that.
if you disturb under an acre.
There's an
so-
exemption.
If you, it's not, it's an exempt, so you're required to have it, or you're exempt if you're under an acre.
would we ever do lid without a site plan?
Are there site plans that don't require lid? I remember that there was a
There's site plans
disconnect.
that don't require lid,
Okay,
but typically
not the other way around.
the other.
All right. And what about downtown?
What about, say? You mean because the.
That has an
lots are small?
exemption and is a separate special
It says
permit.
special, separate landscape.
So their landscaping would not be covered under this if it was just under site plans. Just something to look into.
So you suggest we change, I'm okay to change that. Take out all submissions subject to planning board, like review or whatever. So this is still for negotiation, right? We're just talking through.
Yeah.
Some of the concepts.
All
Why
I'm
don't we
saying
just
is
remove site plan. I mean, it's mainly.
all
what
new
we do.
plantings on,
Well, that's where our decisions are.
Right.
Just delete the word site. All plan submissions.
Plan
so
submissions.
subjected
Yeah,
to
but-
planning board review. I don't know.
So I had a different thought. Well, two thoughts, actually. I thought that a policy for all projects permitted through planning board that require landscaping.
Yeah.
That would have the native policy. But then the bylaw allows us to promulgate regulations under site plan. And I think regulations under the bylaw have more teeth. So maybe do like regulations, which are pretty much the same thing under site plan. But that would require a hearing. That's just one.
That sounds wonderful from where I'm sitting.
Walk me through that again. So so why would we, if we were gonna do it as rules and regulations under the site plan, why would we then have a separate policy?
Well, just an overarching policy for all permits, issued by the planning board. So like downtown district,
Okay,
business village, I don't know if that's called out separately. I don't think so.
So it would capture anything that
MR
requires landscaping.
MRD,
so my only worry is, and again, you never know what you don't know. We've talked about this before. So if we just say all submissions subject to planning board review, there could be a submission that comes along at some point, maybe that we didn't think of as we were doing this. That are we now creating a further issue? And again, I can't think of one off the top of my head, but it's the unintended consequences thing
Right.
keeps popping in my head. By opening the door to everything, is there something that would be exempt from this that we're now potentially changing by saying all planning board reviews? Again, I guess
Can I,
I would just like to go through and make sure
Yeah.
when we're saying all, how broad that is.
Well, there's sign applications, and there used to be ADU application.
Right, so there's different
There's
things
some
that we may not
so
want to be as
signs are
broad.
just a.
Could I just say-
We don't really permit those.
where landscaping is required?
Yeah.
Landscaping is required in certain circumstances. You're not gonna start requiring landscaping on a sign permit, right?
And that's fine, but that, we were just talking about just saying all submissions subject to planning board review.
That requires
That's why I'm getting
landscaping.
hung up because
Requiring
landscaping, if we said that, that's fine. I was getting hung up on not being specific that there may be something that, again, creates an issue down. So all landscaping submissions. Okay.
Oh,
All submissions,
requiring.
subjects. Yeah, got it. Requiring landscaping. Okay.
So then, and is there any thought on doing regulations under site plan?
Yeah. I think that's great.
Regs, we were talking about that forever. right?
Yeah.
So that will be the beginning of site plan rules and regs.
Yeah.
that section,
Yeah.
which-
And would that be your next meeting?
So,
I think that I started like thinking about it like a while back, and you probably have your notes on it, which you need to transfer over to the board before you go, but I think, just like Alan's been working on subdivision rules and regs, it takes a long time. I think we have to start on,
Yeah.
Well, I think
site
these
plan
are-
rules and regs,
yeah,
for sure.
well, I
These have
was
to be-
thinking just this, then
Just
we can
that.
add to it.
Yeah.
We can add different
Yes.
sections. to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, so would you
Continually,
lighten up on
So
this
this-
policy then, and put more of the detail on the rules and regs? Or would you keep the same?
I would just keep it the same.
Keep them the same.
And I think we could do that,
And I wanna say that
because it
you never
doesn't,
wanna rush into something.
Right.
But you've been using this, almost all of it,
I agree.
since two thousand and
Yep,
seventeen.
this piece, yeah, I agree.
Yes.
There's some things here that aren't gonna fit, so when we get to them, I'll explain that.
Yeah, I like that idea.
I just, so, on the pesticide restrictions.
Well, we're not there yet, right?
Oh, okay.
Let's go to, just make sure we go through it all so we don't jump. So the next one is native plant standards, and it's what you've been doing, native to New England by Native Plant Trust, for botany mapping,
I would stick the definitions up there
up where?
at the beginning. The,
Oh, yeah, as far as, can I
At the
say,
end. Yeah, the cultivars native and invasive.
as far as how this would work for the planning board, I think you need to define that. Cause it's collaborative, it wasn't, we brought like what they are. And if you need it to be reformatted, that works better with the zoning, you would know that better than I would, so.
Okay, so I have a question for you. We don't really talk about trees in here. And some trees are host to, like oaks, are host to like hundreds and hundreds of moths and butterflies. And that's twice as many as the next species, which is like cherry and maple and
Keystone
birch.
species.
What's
We got
that?
counting.
Yeah. And so when we talk about like native trees even, and in our policies and in our discussions and our conditions, we don't, I mean, we say like one from the list, but in my mind, it should be something that hosts a lot of species. and I don't know that list well enough to know, but maybe we should prioritize that. And should that be part of this policy, or are those two different?
Well,
things?
let me explain a couple things, right? So species that are declining, right?
Yeah.
Dr. Shakir's list.
Yeah.
He has keystone plants on it. Now, if you want to pull those out, that's great, but one of the things for trees, willows is one of the top ones.
Yeah.
Oaks. On Shakir's list, native. We say Shakir's list is Dr. Shakir, I'm sorry.
Right.
Is a priority. The planning board could further refine it, but one thing we like to be a little careful on is like when you're talking about non-trees and shrubs. Just think of this. Milkweed only supports like 1 or 2 insects. Very few. 1 butterfly. Monarchs. No milkweed, no monarch. So some of these at-risk species that are declining have very specific plants. And if you want the one that has thousands of, not thousands, but hundreds of species that use it, that's a good thing, but it's not going to necessarily help the one tree that helps one species. So I think, if you have Dr. Shakir's tree, there are trees on his list, use those. And, Doug Talamy, we can throw that in if you want the keystone. But I use Dr. Shakir's list because there's keystone plants. I don't like to get sidetracked into not helping the species that are going extinct.
Okay, so I would just be in favor of adding like tree reference or something like that, because I think that's the next thing we have to tackle. Once we get tree replacement, which is what a lot of tonight's meeting is about, someone's got to decide which trees they are, right? And so you want to make sure it's a tree that can host a lot of species, or you have the diversity. One is, you've got a host in various different
So I would
species.
suggest that would be under your street tree list, adding something in there that was developed not as part of this.
Right.
Well, this is trees too,
Yeah.
native trees.
It is,
So we require trees in landscaping, not just plants.
so
Yeah, I don't want to complicate it, but I think that I did a quick search of how many times the word tree shows up and it doesn't. It was only in Marnie's comments. And I guess I would like to see if we can add reference, because there are only about 5 or 6 trees that host hundreds of species. Maybe there's a tree that saves one species. I don't know what that is, but I mean, we're talking about 900 species in an oak, 300 in a maple, and then it drops down to like 30. You need willow, cherry, and then it drops down under 100. And so I don't know exactly. I don't think that we're like going to be able to make a recommendation per se, but I think people forget oaks. Like if they're looking to beautify their landscape, they don't think naturally, I'm going to plant a bunch of, maybe they do. There's people who love oaks.
so
We've seen them, pin oaks.
I would
Pin oaks
say,
on this.
I would
know,
say
yeah.
from the Open Space Commission's perspective, we always felt that we created a guideline, but we don't tell you what you have within that, because then you get into trouble. Or,
Yeah.
so we recommend plants on Dr. Shakir's list. And there aren't that many trees.
Yeah.
And I can go through it and tell you how many of them are keystone, but there's one that just got called out. Who thought of the hackberry?
Oh, really?
And I was like, that sounds familiar. It's it's on his list, but it just got called out for how many birds it feeds. So it's not just how many. So here's the thing. It feeds birds the berries when they need it. It also, and I think it's on Doug Talamy's keystone plant. So there's, I think you're good if you take trees off Dr. Shakir's list.
Okay.
And if you want to push people towards oaks,
Not necessarily, but
and the
just,
problem is the size, right? People
Right.
aren't going to want an oak going up near a parking lot, are they?
heard about.
And then you have ornamental trees. Yeah, for the parking lot, I believe, they can have so many ornamental or so many shade trees.
Or combination.
Right, so take a look at how many, on Dr. G. Gear's list, like,
So maybe that could be in
Plum is a-
rules and regs, if you don't, if you want to prefer to keep this as plant list, native plants focus. Or it's on Dr. Tadier's list, but I guess I would like some call out to trees. Maybe our rules and regs says something. Plant trees,
well,
addition.
my point would be to keep them the same.
Keep it.
Yeah. So
I'm not against doing that. I'm just like, I shouldn't say I'm not against. I worry when you narrow it down without looking at everything.
Yeah,
And one of the things is, does it supply food for birds to eat?
Well, the
Does it-
question is, are native plants trees?
Yeah.
Does that include trees?
Of course it does.
Okay.
so maybe we can just put the words in there.
What do you mean are native plants trees?
You know, does it so,
Well,
well,
it's
people
the-
think of plants, they think of like.
Right, that's what I.
Milkweed and small.
So, okay, so I
and
live in a
then
different
45
world.
foot tree.
Trees are native plants
Okay.
and there's non-native plant trees. And that's why we put a tree list that we worked on. I think that was in 2019, where we put almost all straight species native plants for your street tree list. So we've already accomplished a lot there. It's just the size of the tree. Who's going to put a big oak tree in for most of these type of landscaping?
Okay, I didn't mean to derail, but I do think it could just benefit by saying.
So you would never
Additional
say, can I just say this? If you want to change it, you could say native plants, which include herbaceous, shrubs, trees. I mean, all of that is included.
Yeah, like in the.
I don't think you
definition.
need to, but if you want to, you may. If you, in case people don't know that trees come in native and non-native varieties. And invasive, as we're one of the big ones, I'll just say, drive around now and look at all the white blooming trees on the side of the roads everywhere.
That's the Bartlett pears, right?
The, and that was the favored street tree of all the cul-de-sacs across Massachusetts. We have over 7 acres infestation at Breakneck Hill, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of plants from one tree that was nearby. Well, maybe it was more than one, but we only saw one. So it's a problem. But anyhow, that's digressing from this portion of it. So you can put in native plants include trees and
Well, it says includes. all-
herbaceous and, if you go to G Gear's list on that screen, he calls out what all his plants are, what types. Just use that.
What
It's
is
not in here,
herbaceous?
it's in the other. It means like perennials.
Okay.
But there's another kind too, I think. I'll look it up. You'd think I'd know, but I hang out with a botanist, but. So shrubs, herbaceous perennial tree. Yeah, those are like shrubs, small trees, some of them mix. But you also want annuals are included, so it's not just perennials. All right, do you want to go to the next one? So it was exclusions, cultivars and non-native plants do not meet the criteria. The pesticide restrictions, the use of neonicotinoids in any systemic pesticide is prohibited. I just want to make that clear because everyone says no neonics. That's a short term for neonicotinoids. These are pesticides that when you spray on the plant, they live in the plant. They can last for up to 12 years. If you bring that plant home, you put it in your soil, it leaches into the soil, it can get into groundwater. And it's a gift that keeps on giving. It won't have the same, like you spray it and you kill something right away. But if an insect plant a pollinator plant and they go and visit it and they keep coming back, they get sick and can kill or make them very sick and they don't reproduce. And, there's a massive problem with having neonicotinoids. So everyone started getting on the bandwagon about no neonics, and you call the nursery and say, do you use neonicotinoids? And they said, no, we don't. And they told the truth because they switched to another type of It's called a systemic pesticide that keeps on killing, stays in the plant for many years. So it's not just neonics.
So is it easy to source?
If you're buying native plants from a reputable source, yes. You know, but like Bigelow's, okay, so Bigelow's is a nursery in Northborough. They're not some small little nursery. They supply trees for DOT, DCR. There's the one Sylvan, I've recommended them to you before. Now Bigelow's has outright, they said they will use neonics if they have to. If they have, so to grow a tree, it takes many years, right? And if you get an infestation of an insect, they're not going to lose the whole crop, so they will use it sparingly. They don't use it on their, you know, their perennials and things like that, but they will tell you if you ask if they have used it on that specific tree. So that's about as good as you get for a large,
So I'm
for a large
I'm
supplier.
wondering for enforceability and. When,
Have you been asking
For neonic,
neonic free?
But how do you enforce that?
Yeah,
that
that's
was
what-
one of my questions I had on a couple other.
I
things,
believe
too,
we
is
required it at Ken's Foods.
You can require it, but then who's gonna go and
And
make
at the
sure that they're not just doing whatever, they're spraying.
They're not spraying.
it's when they come from the nursery.
The nurseries,
Okay. I
they
misunderstood.
get documentation from the nursery when they purchase the
I
plant.
got it.
Did you
I
get that?
I was
Provide
thinking
that.
Did you ever
further down
receive
the
that?
road.
I have
there we go. So I thought
for
we had.
St. Mark's Dorm project
Well, that's what I'm saying.
And Ken's?
Road.
and for Ken's.
Oh, we did that for
Spray,
those?
whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
This isn't, so this isn't new. But it's not as easy. But here's what else happens.
So that would be a condition.
No,
Like-
future spraying with.
It's not, oh,
No, it would be a condition of the approval, so then when they go to source the plants, they need to get that.
like she said,
Notification.
St. Mark's and Ken's did it.
Yeah, those were the conditions that
Okay.
Freddie provided to us during the permitting process, and the planning board accepted those in the decisions.
And let me step over to your comment about not using it. I don't think we can regulate what people do on their property.
No.
You have a site plan. This is what you require, and the hopes is healthy plants, they're not gonna be spraying them with, you know, and if they do, you can't control everything as much as, you know, as you might like to. So you can't say you can't spray that with, it's not your property. You're reviewing plans, right? And what they put in there.
But just like we asked for natives or straight natives, couldn't we ask for them not to use neonicotine? For, you know, to improve our biodiversity in town?
Well, you can ask them or recommend it, but you're not 10 years down the road, are you going by and saying, hey,
Right, we'll never know if they follow, I'm sure we'll have some
Yeah,
developers.
that just seems to me a little, I'll be honest, that
Yeah.
seems to me a little bit enough to get people's hair on the back of their neck.
So I think we can ask for documentation that where they've sourced.
Isn't that what
their plants
Isn't
from.
that what this says?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as far as never spraying pesticides,
And then it's verified proposed plants. I don't know how you're checking it now, I mean, besides,
We use
we use.
Go Botany.
I know, but is it you or it says they're supposed to do it?
Well,
We verify, so then we tell them to submit the right kind, and then they submit a list, and then we look at it. And verify, if not, if we don't find it on there, we question it.
So this next one was because sometimes a plant, so the botanist experts will, you know, they're always doing testing and they find that this plant that was classified as this is not really in that family, and they move it to another family and now the name's different and it won't show up on Go Botany. So I will often, like, because I know that's native, it's got to be there. So I'll do a search on the internet to say, has it been changed? And then use that new name. So I never would just say, no, that's not right, without unless you, I mean, like some plants I would just know are not native, but other ones, when I knew they were, I had to dig a little. Like one of the ones that was native, this drove all the people crazy because it was like a dogwood or something.
Oh, yeah,
And they
they changed the
switched it.
name.
Then they put it back.
Oh, gee.
But anyhow, but they're doing the best they can because they think if they find out something scientifically that is different, they need to make it correct, even if it annoys people by changing the name. Because it's making it correct, it's in a different name. That's the geniuses at Gobant. And I would say I took a course with him and he is just, I thought he'd be an old man.
So the
He's not.
system, pesticide management, isn't that the same as what I thought? Pesticide restrictions that are on the previous page?
That's all.
Yeah, so sometimes when you write these things up, you make mistakes and duplicate things. Is it the exact same wording?
Well, it's more explanatory of what that is, but I think it accomplishes it on the previous page unless you don't think so.
And also we had maybe something the Open Space Commission wrote and something somebody else wrote and we didn't change it.
But do you think that accomplishes it on the previous page?
Yeah, this has more description. It doesn't need to be there. So this is the mulch, and I want to talk about this. We added that in, and I don't think we can do this because you have, or I don't know how to accomplish it. And the goal here was to say, because we know it's coming down the road, the stones and gravel, it's the new fad. Landscape companies are pushing it, they're selling it. People will be coming in front of the planning board asking for you to let them use it instead of mulch. We want to be sure that, did I say commission? I meant board. We want to be sure the planning board understands why to say no. And I don't know if you can give waivers on mulch, on landscaping. So I wrote, wait a second.
Also as ground cover,
All right,
also proposing it as ground cover. In other words, where there would normally be someone like, the developer might come in and say, we want to put grass. I've been privy to some instances with potential ground cover of just gravel stone.
oh, the ground cover is stone?
Yeah,
Yes, yes, well, we're seeing
not just
that.
around the plants itself, like the mulch around.
Well, back to that, so I checked out, your landscaping bylaw 174-13. And it is intended to establish minimum standards for the design and landscape for all development projects requiring planning board approval. And then it goes on to say, the planning board may authorize alternatives to the following specs. So that was what made us consider saying, but no stones. And I don't know if you know, how you would do that. And then the other problem is under number 8, 174-13. 8 something, I don't know where the 8 came from, but all planting area shall be mulched with a 3 to 4 inch layer of bark mulch or other similar material to cover the complete planting area. So that takes soft landings out of the picture. If
So
you're
mulch isn't a soft landing?
No, soft landings are like planting under the drip line. If you think of 3 to 4 inches, now one of the goals is to allow these insects to get into the soil or for other, not even the insects falling off the trees, but bees cannot get through 3 and 4 inches of mulch to get to the soil. 70% of our bees are ground nesters. So I don't know if this requires a bylaw change or if there's any way to make accommodations. I would not be in favor of trying a bylaw change
Mhm.
at this point in time.
I
It's just not. It's not time worthy. Having the conversations you can recommend. But, one of the things is, and no case more than 25% of the planting area shall be strictly bare mulch. That's going back, think of the old. You have a plant. And then a lot of mulch. And then another plant.
Well, this says no more than 25%.
25% is a lot of a mass of a planting area. It's a lot. If you have a shrub. This is bare mulch, not under or around the plant. And then you have another shrub, 25% of the area where you have shrubs would just be mulch. The purpose for that is it makes it real easy to go with a backpack spray and just herbicide the roots. So are people going to adopt this soft landing that are doing a, say, an office park, or probably not, but people are moving in that direction. And I did want to say something about the availability of the neonic-free trees and stuff. We put a garden in we called them at the time, pollination preservation gardens using Dr. Shakir's plant list. It took 13 nurseries across the country to get the plants we needed for that garden. I can do it today in 1 or 2 nurseries because I've sent those lists out, not just myself, to nurseries all around. We call up and you ask for the plants. Western Nursery sells them now. Lots of places are starting to. So when you start using it and asking, they start providing what people want. So the same thing with the neonics. Many places, there's a Massachusetts Pollination Network, MAPN. They have a list of all nurseries that sell natives neonic free, but it's more the niche, small, little ones, not the large ones. So maybe that's something to come up with, a list of large nurseries that sell larger trees that are neonic free. Can add that to the list to do. Because I need more homework.
One other point that came up from recently, someone mentioned that there's potentially some kind of fire insurance restrictions of putting landscaping right up to the building. So like out west, they have those fires. And so they require these fire safety precautions now, where you don't plant anything within 5 feet of the building. So this is where they might be coming into those storms. I don't know if that's effective here, like, I don't know.
So we're not telling people to plant up against the building, and I don't know what they normally use.
Yeah, just putting it out there that
Where I've seen the stone being used, it's not up against buildings. It's near sidewalks.
oh, yeah.
But I don't know that, and we haven't prohibited lawn, which we don't like, but where it's necessary and
Lawn is better than stone.
if you have,
Yeah.
oh yeah. But if you have 5 feet of, in front of a building and then you have shrubs, what's wrong with just bare soil behind the shrubs? You don't have to have rocks.
So I think this native ground cover planting to create soft landing shall be allowed and encouraged in place of mulch. That's fine. That doesn't conflict with the.
Well, according to the bylaw, I was afraid it created a situation where you have to. The planning board may authorize alternatives. So it's not, the requirement is mulch. And native plant ground cover is not mulch. It's a native mulch. We call it a native mulch, but it's not. I mean, people think of mulch as mulch, right? You go to the store to buy mulch. Everyone knows what you're looking for. Oh, and even another thing is the most mulch is dyed. Remember that awful orange all the McDonald's have, right? So I went and I said, I want the really dark natural colored. I found out that's to make it look dark and pretty. So it's another reason not to use mulch. Almost all of it is dyed and that reaches into the soil. Who knows how many forever chemicals are in that? I didn't do research, but I don't know. Anyhow, I'm trying not to make recommendations that are in opposition to what your bylaw is. And if you think you can meet the shall be, but you may authorize alternatives. And it would never be to tell people they have to do that, because at this point in the life cycle of this type of ecological landscaping, there would be pushback. People like standardized, like if you drove down Route 9, what we found out, it was called the landscape. No, it's the developer special. All of the landscaping around the office buildings, it was basically the same plan. They just dropped it down and cut out where the building and the parking lot and the walkways were. It was the same trees. You can picture them, the little roadies, the river birch, the Stella d'Oro, daylilies, all the way down Route 9. Drive around all the, it's not just here, but if you drive around here, you'll see it. So they like standardized, and so we're not trying to ask for too much that would make people's heads explode. But if somebody was willing to do this, we wouldn't want them to be prevented because you had the 25, the 3 inches of mulch required. The next section was, we asked that landscape fabric shall be discouraged, prohibited if possible. It's really bad. A lot of it's plastic, you're talking forever chemicals in the soil. It doesn't break down. And then what happens is, obviously the insects can't, go up and down like they need to in the soil, depending how deep it is. It is maybe contributing to forever chemicals in the soil, depending what's in the plastic that they use. Oftentimes they use it and then they put mulch on top of it, but then soil fills in and weeds grow, and then you can't get it out, and then it tears up into these tiny little pieces. So then there's integration with site plan review. If you make these to be a regulation, that might be irrelevant. So we get to the invasive species management policy. So we already have in your bylaw (174.13). I'm sorry, what letter it must have been. 10C. Invasive plants defines them. So we want to make sure that probably the definitions are matching a little bit, but it already says the town of Southborough encourages the use of native species in all landscaping plans. Anyhow, you prohibit using them, which it's illegal to anyhow because the state has laws against using them. But this here is about how you're going to treat construction with invasive plants on this location.
Pretty, in that section, it mentions BMPs. I'm not sure if I'm in the exact same section. Yeah.
Best management practices.
Okay.
Does it not sit?
It's not, I don't think it's defined, or maybe I missed it.
It may.
I've never heard that before. Maybe just spelled it out.
It's usually a drainage term.
Oh, it is a BMP?
Yeah, you use best management practices.
Oh.
It's for invasive plant removal. It's for anything.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry if it didn't, because the intention was to. So what happens is
Let me just ask, how is this gonna be policed? I understand that Mass DOT has this, and, you know, especially like the follow-up management piece, who's gonna do that? Who's gonna do the quarterly, first year biannually?
Okay,
So again, I'm just trying to figure out how this is gonna be policed through even through the construction process. Is this something we're gonna be asking the building inspector to?
are you looking at something here or are you looking on the DOT document?
No, I'm looking at your document. It talks about clearing and grubbing. And but again, I'm asking, how is that gonna be policed? And then follow-up management, post-construction, it talks about the site shall be monitored at regular intervals. Who's gonna do that? Not that I'm against doing this, I'm just, again, I'm looking at it holistically, I guess, and saying who's gonna be responsible if we add this policy in, who's gonna be responsible for monitoring and policing?
So I'll be honest with you, that Marnie wrote a lot of this, invasive language.
Okay, I'm just curious.
So she's not here to go, you know, offer her insight to
Yeah.
where she came up with this.
I mean, again, I'm not saying it's bad, but
Right.
I'm looking at it and saying, who's gonna do this?
So
I mean, you can make somebody promise that, oh, yeah, okay, we'll do it, but that doesn't mean they're gonna do it. That's my fear, and we know how quickly invasive spread. So, you know, like I was even reading the Mass DOT thing, you know, again, depending on the goodwill of others to follow the rules per se. But again, without any form of, enforcement, I don't know how it's gonna happen.
well, let me ask this, right? Who knows what will happen? Could it make a project here and there better? Maybe.
Oh, I'm sure it
Awareness
would.
is good. It's sort of like our light bylaw. You go through plans and you make sure it's in compliance, correct? Drive down Route 9,
Oh, yeah.
go to the townhouse.
Again, I'm not against doing it, but how can you have follow-up management if you're not specifying who's going to do it? Otherwise, it's just a blurb on a piece of paper that doesn't.
And I'll be honest, I didn't go through Marty's writing as much.
Okay, and that was where I had most of my questions on was on how, again, not that I disagree with it, I think invasives are a huge issue, but I just don't know.
Yeah, I would agree that the monitoring and maintenance is challenging and
Yes.
maybe before the next hearing. I'm not trying to throw this to Marnie, but I don't,
I mean,
I don't recall writing this, so I'm pretty sure I read it. It sounds good and I hadn't thought it through and I would wonder if she had someplace she came up with this.
so my suggestion is if we're looking to possibly do something for the next meeting, I have a lot of questions just on the invasive piece alone. Is it worthwhile to maybe just pull the invasive piece out right now if we're really looking to get a policy in place and we can discuss this at our next meeting? And if we can agree on it, that's fine.
I actually suggested we not discuss the invasives
Okay.
tonight.
Yeah,
So
that's, I mean,
I'll be honest, it was at the last meeting, it was requested that we bring invasives in, the Open Space Commission was not.
it's
At that
harder. That piece is harder. The rest, I'm good with, Freddie. This one,
So this,
I'm
so this
struggling with.
is good to just get on the radar, so we can continue to work on.
And I wanna tell you,
Right, so I'm good with that, Amy, but if we're looking to put a policy in place potentially at our next meeting, I think the first piece, this, I think we can get done. I do. I think we can certainly get that done. This, I don't
Takes some-
see,
yeah.
unless we do it as a separate policy and we continue to work on it.
Yeah, we don't have to do that.
Okay,
so
that's just my
you can
suggestion.
have an overarching goal to work towards. And I wanna tell you one thing that did happen positive. Well, first of all, for the DOT standards, that's for roadways, but they're the only documented area that we found that somebody had said, this is how you manage.
Right,
And so if you're doing a construction site, you'd want to follow that through. Like, take, for example, and maybe you can start thinking about this. I noticed what's the oil company on Route 9 next to Nance? The quick change oil place. Valvoline, okay. That site was loaded with knotweed. Yeah. They dug it up. Where did it go?
Hopefully they burned it. Woodland Road.
You know? And the trucks going in and out. They're driving it all the way down. So 1/4 of an inch is all it takes. So they're getting it caught in their big trucks and their big change, and they're driving it down the road. And they're spreading it all the way down Deerfoot, unless they went politely out to Route 9 and drove away. But wherever they go, so there are standards that they're supposed to use, and that people, where they're supposed to bring it. And those are things that if we can't make a policy, we should at least be having the conversations now.
No, I agree.
Yeah. And here's one. Knotweed. The roots and rhizomes traveled. Forget how many 7 meters. It's like 21 feet, approximately about 3-ish feet for a little bit more.
Yeah.
So 21 feet underground. So one of the things is that, when you're digging up something that far away, you're scooping up a little bit of 1/2 inch of a root or a rhizome somewhere else is a whole new plant. So it's worth considering, given that the damage it causes, it will come up through pavement eventually at some point in time. We're not that far. England started regulating it in 1990, I think it was. Must have got there first, it's, prolific, and maybe the temperature or whatever, but it is a big deal here. It's not the only one. So considering it is a good thing, having a policy right now, probably not, but I did want to say that it wasn't DOT because only for roads, but those are the best management practices. And before I even read this, at Breakneck Hill, the farm dump, I don't know if you know how many, I should find out, but it was tractor trailer after tractor trailer hauling asbestos laden soil out. And then of course we had a big pit and they had to bring soil in, and we're like, whoa, wait a minute. We want to be sure, because who thinks about soil, right? Well, when we were doing one thing, another project I was working on, I said, oh, it's sifted soil or something like that. I said, oh, that sounds great. And they go, you know where it comes from? It's just like a place like Breakneck Hill with all those invasives. Say a developer is going to make a housing place there. They scoop up all the topsoil, truck it away and sell it with all the invasives, and they sift it to get all the rocks out. So all you're doing is planting those invasives. So we said we want to have certified invasive weed-free soil brought in. And our conservation agent, Melissa, was able to add that on as a condition. They brought it in, truckloads back in of this soil, and it had to meet a standard that's written here. And what happened then, we don't trust them. So how can they do that really, right? I don't know where they got it, but they got it. She said it didn't cost any more money. I don't know if that was built into the bid or not, but it was available. They brought it in. So then what we did is we are not going to put down the expensive seed that we want in plants because we want to see what invasives come in, give us a year to treat the invasives that came in. We had a whole growing season and basically no invasives. We put a cover crop down to cover the soil that we will then get off to before we do the planting. It seems to have worked, so it's doable, it's possible. And I don't know if that's something you can say. If you see a site like Valvoline, is it? And you see all those, you could say you got to bring in clean soil. And you got to do some sort of management of, you got to tell us where you're bringing that. You're not dumping it down at the end of, Joe Schmo's driveway, backyard.
So Bill kind of brought up a good, right, was talking to him about this, in retrospect, because I think you had brought it up at town meeting.
I think I might have.
Yeah, so he said, it's just be more specific in regards to what certification means and who does this and how do you make sure they do it? You know what I mean? That was one of,
The certification is by a company that's pretty specific.
right, but how would a developer know, like, what that criteria is? In other words, more specific, like if there was some kind of background information that said, all right, you're certified weed-free if XYZ.
We
And so
can
they
check
should meet
with-
that.
We can check with Melissa how she did it, because I have
Yeah.
no idea. And I do know, though, another area that we're concerned of is mulch, which is one of the concerned not mulch, compost, especially with jumping worms that come in and transported. There's a company in Framingham and they'll let you go in and actually tour the plant where, I don't know if they heat it to a certain degree or something, but they're doing it. So
But there must be a specification, like when you have a
I like
concrete tank,
15-minute
a
window.
certain kind of concrete they can use in the
Okay.
strength.
So I think that so invasives, I think needs more work and more discussion. But I think that we should, for next meeting, move forward to do a policy and do we want regulations on native plants under site plan?
yes,
So we'll have a hearing on that and then and do an overarching policy to cover everything.
yes,
Absolutely.
let me ask. I've submitted this. Are you going to take it from here?
Yeah.
Create the policy. I don't have to go home and rewrite.
No,
Take stuff
I
out,
think
move it
it's
around.
pretty much it. I may
Well, you wanted to move the
change some
definition.
words to policy to regulations.
You still want policy because you're voting on a policy.
Both.
Right.
One of each.
There were some other changes you wanted. Definitions moved
To the front
Right.
top, yeah,
and taking out the redundant,
yeah.
repetitive. And somebody else is going to do that. I don't have to do that. Do a
Yeah.
submit.
No,
Thank you
I'll-
very much.
I'll do it and send it up. All right,
What did you say about public meeting, public hearing
yeah,
you need-
for a regulation.
for the 11th?
Yep.
So we'll have to,
It just goes on the agenda.
it's just an
That's not
agenda as a
bylaw.
public hearing or public meeting.
Nope, just part of the agenda for public meeting.
It has to be
Right.
noticed 7 days in advance or something.
Notice,
Let me see.
not considered a hearing, it's just part of your meeting, but it has to be on the agenda.
Yep.
With clarity, people know what to think.
I think for this, there are really at least three questions that you're going to have to answer, right? And they include, who are the people who are going to, monitor or police, whatever word you want to use? Where does the training come from? And what does it cost?
Is that for native plants?
Well, for native plants and for invasives, I mean, they share this issue of, there are a bunch of advocates who've studied this and are enthusiastic about it and are driving it. But you want developers to respond, you want inspectors or monitors. You know, I mean, I don't know how many Joe Orzells there are in the world. But I mean, it's that kind of person who you're going to need.
The planning board's been doing this since 2017 and for the native plant side of it. So this is no different than what they've been doing for almost a decade.
And it hasn't been monitored or enforced or policed except by exception for all that time.
No, it has. When they put the plants in there, you have an as-built required. They have to show the receipt. If they're sneaking in a tree that looks like the tree that's not quite, and the receipt is lying, you're not going to catch them. But it's not really that big a deal. The invasives is the bigger problem.
It seems to come up when people notice, at least from sitting in this chair. And as I say, I think if you want widespread, voluntary, low effort compliance, you've got to figure out where the people are coming from, how they get trained, and how you answer the cost of it.
Well,
What training?
There is no cost
There's no training.
difference.
How
You buy a
many
tree.
people in this room I mean, forget about the town at large, can recognize the rhizomes of knotweed or bamboo or, any of these things. in a
We're not
truckload
doing the
itself.
invasive, you said
Yes,
we're taking that
gonna
off.
hold off on the invasive.
That's
the
where, you're
natives-
right, that's very complicated and isn't gonna. It wasn't the Open Space Commission's intention to have this be about the invasives at this time. We were asked to pull it out together, and so,
Thank you. That was my fault.
well, it's a great idea.
Yeah.
The one for the road is different because that's more like the amendment for the town. That's more like, what we did at Breakneck Hill. Because you're putting a bid out and it's a requirement. And then when you come back later and there's invasives, then they have to come back and fix it.
Okay, I think we need to push on.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries. So the subdivision rules and regulations, the next item on the agenda. Alan's not here. So we don't
He's
have-
not here. We haven't met again since the last time we met.
And then master plan implementation.
Okay, I'll give a quick update. So master plan is I'd say in terms of, just setting the stage, master plan. Kicked off with the 2021 master plan. Here we are in 26. And, we're in the middle. Like, I think, we've reached that point that the master plan committee looked at short-term, medium range and long-term goals. And, we're definitely in the middle. We are starting to turn our attention to, believe it or not, making a recommendation moving forward to kind of get to a 2030 master plan. And although that seems crazy, because it seems like it just came out with a master plan, basically the committee would like to start doing some planning this year and even potentially thinking about looking for some grant money. And I'll share with you just a couple of things. We've gone through a couple of sessions where we've tried to think about maybe lessons learned, things that we might want to do differently next time. And I think where they've landed is somewhere in the middle, not having fully outsourced master plan like you did in 2008 or whenever, and not having it completely in-house like with the 2021 master plan, but having somebody guide us, not write it. But the thinking behind the committee is that we've been undergoing an exercise where we've been looking at other master plan implementation committees in other towns and looking at their charge and also looking at what they have for master plan goals. And some of the more recent ones are coming out with fewer goals and they're more in line with themes. So a theme might be to do something with the municipal buildings or to have more, parks and let's say open space or sidewalks or something like that. So I think that one of the comments I'd like to share is that there was an ambitious number of goals and recommendations with over 200, and many of them have started and are in process, and that's great. And so really there's not much for the master plan implementation committee now to do, but start thinking about, because each of the goal boards and committees are tracking their own and, really thinking about 2030 master plan. Alan happened to reach out to a colleague who said that potentially, I just wanted to kind of look at his note of some speaking, but not read his whole note. But he said potentially some communities are applying for one-stop community grants to get some funding for someone to help as a consultant with a master plan. And so we'll consider this sort of a hybrid approach to help us with maybe the community outreach and the themes and how we might think about doing it differently, given that we've tried kind of both extremes. And he also found out some timeframes that we are right in the middle. I think the one stop, we missed the notice of intent, or
I think that just came out. I think
I just got an email.
we just got an email.
so
So I
did I.
think it's
Yeah.
May or June something.
It's due by June, the
Right.
notice of interest.
So, so there's just a couple of things is that, they reached out to Claire Reynolds to see if she'd be interested to help, but mainly I'm here tonight to ask if the planning board would be okay with some sort of a grant for the community one stop, to see if we might qualify for some funding. I think we'll start to see some ideas solidify. They're not going to be coming from Claire. It's going to have to come from master plan implementation. But just the idea is that if we can, start early, see if we can get some funding to help us along the line. See what you guys think about it.
For the next master plan.
For the 2030. So they're thinking in 2028, because given the amount of years that it took for the 2021 to come out, several years that we should be starting something in 28. So start now. And so there's some thoughts about how much money we should be asking for. It should sort of be on the lower side, not super high. Maybe there'd be, this could be a dialogue with the select board, that kind of thing. That has to happen too. And we are planning to have a joint meeting with the select board. But they wanted to get permission.
That it's the master plan is under the planning.
Right. If there's any kind of other funding to supplement, so master plan has no budget. So implementation has no budget. So if we, for example, Alan gave a figure of something like 160,000 to 200,000 based on a colleague that he was speaking. So we wouldn't be asking for that much money. We'd be asking for something under that, but it could be that a consultant that could be high or low. We don't really know. So we would ask for something lower than that.
That goes out on mass plan or some time less. And I think that's kind of in the range.
Yeah. So there's just some thinking. I'm really glad that they're thinking about it because we've been, we've been starting to think in terms of like themes. We know that there are some themes that, that we just know about from talking to people that maybe didn't get picked up in the master plan or were missed. We find out there's people who feel that our schools need to be rebuilt and things. That wasn't in the master plan.
No,
it wasn't in the master
schools
plan.
were in the master plan this time for the first time ever.
That's correct. But there was no mention that there's something wrong with our schools and we need to. Right. So that is a major theme. That if there's groups of people, for example, and this one came up at one of our meetings, if there's groups of people that think like there's something wrong with those schools, it would be sort of beneficial to know. What did come up as in the master plan that you led with the open house survey on this idea of a community center.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so that still
And a
persists.
swimming pool.
Yes, that's right. So that still persists. So, I mean, I think that the energy right now is thinking into, okay, well, what are towns kind of in a more modern setting today? What kind of outreach are they doing? Is it, how, for example, what our recommendation, we need to make a recommendation, I think, to the planning board of when we think the master plan committee should be reformed. We think that feels right around 2028. And but master plan implementation would like to do something, in like request a grant, talk to a consultant and work through some stuff before that in 27. So that's sort of my little update to you. I'm sure I'm missing a whole lot of things.
So you want to apply for a one-stop to kick off?
To kick off, right? This would be sort of later groundwork as a foundation, I guess, for someone to help guide us through the process and to make sure that we have more buy-in. We are finding that, as we've worked through this, we have schools, but they have their own 5-year plans, I think, and they're not at all connected, but we've incorporated it. So we want to figure out how to work, through that. And I think in the 2021, I think what you had done, the planning board had done, is try to get the different boards and committees to work with each other. And we want to and that's very difficult, we know, but we want to take that to the next step to say, okay, maybe not just one board or committee owns something. Maybe it's a theme that everybody agrees, yes, I'm going to use Freddie because she said, we want open space. We want our town to be beautiful and our home values to go up and to have, a beautiful place to live with diversity and feel good about what our part in the environment. And to do that, it's not just open space. I'm just picking on your friend. It would be the town buying into it and agreeing, and that's a piece of it on every level, most of the goals, we hear from various boards, that, well, we didn't really, we didn't really agree to that. We always hear that. Oh, yes, you actually did. So we're trying to say, okay, well, next time we want to make sure that it's really, maybe 200 is too many, even though they're like very granular, but maybe we think in higher levels of like, what is it we're trying to ascertain? Where do we want to go and how do we get there? So to do that, we think we need a consultant and we'd like to put together an application. I would need to know, is like the planning board putting it in, or would you like to review it? Like, I don't know anything about One Stop, but I'm here today to just ask if it's okay that we do that.
So I think the expression of interest is due June 3rd, which is.
Oh, okay, that's just okay.
So that's not that far. But
Oh,
I think the planning board would want to
yes,
review it,
yes,
but I think, sure,
you're gonna try it.
get money.
Okay,
I can tell you that Vanessa Hale
she just,
is informed about One Stop. But also Claire Reynolds is working with the town of Westboro for a regional One Stop submittal with Westboro and Southboro.
Oh.
For the Route 9 corridor
okay,
study type stuff.
okay.
Yeah, so I'm not sure how the state views when a town puts in several different applications.
Well, I thought that was a process that
Just
goes
so
to
you
the select board, or not, I don't really know. Okay,
So
I thought that's what we were trying to do.
I think we'll have to wait on minutes.
Can I just throw in something on that topic?
Lisa has to go.
I have
and
to
then we
go.
lose a
Sorry.
quorum. Is it 3 words or less?
We need an open space and rec plan. No one's talked about it. I think it's due next year.
So
Is there a way of
actually be one of our
combining that
themes.
together? It usually ends up in my lap to write it. Yes.
The last one was good, I read.
Me, if the updates in the minutes are quick, I can do
I
like
haven't
5 more
read them.
minutes, that's all I can do.
I would prefer to pump them because I haven't.
Okay.
had a chance.
Okay, sorry.
No minutes.
You have anything to?
Conservation seeking members. Conservation received a revised submittal for Southville Road, the MBTA Communities Project. Just so you're aware, I think I forwarded that. Conservation put out flash about conservation land use rules that we were working on. The legal ag regulations, I passed that on. Select board we submitted a planning board letter to the select board for the chapter 61 Northville Road property. And that's it.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. Yep, second, by
All those in favor, Latrell, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Fresh, yes.
Thank you, Lisa.
No, I'm sorry.
About that.
Thank